road.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay.
Okay, call the meeting to order. Let the record show everyone's present except for Supervisor Shea, who's on vacation.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Okay. A motion by Supervisor Whitman to move the consent agenda.
Second.
Second by Supervisor Schultz. Any discussion? The only discussion would be that July 19 minutes from yesterday, we sold bonds, and one of them was less than 1%, and the other one was less than 1.5%. So those went very well. So we'll have our money probably within 30 days and down the road. So okay, all those in any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Jason Slack, Director, Buildings and Ground, discussion on the decision to approve CO number 002, AIA change order, steel price increase.
This is just the addition of the sealed prices that were approved on July 6th. This brings the, on the formal AIA document, this brings the total contract sum to $5,600,845.
Is that your recommendation, Jason?
Yes.
I'll move that. Second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have Captain Deputy Jeff Thulin and Captain Milner from CBPD, discussion and decision to approve and authorize the board to sign resolution number 71-2021 entitled a resolution authorizing the chairman of the board of supervisors to sign the interlocal agreement between the county of Potawatomi and the city of Council Bluffs with respect to the 2021 Buyer Justice Assistance Grant Program Award.
It's the annual burn JAG grant that we do every year. It's interlocal between the city and county. This year's grant is $35,157. It'll be split 50-50 between the police department and the sheriff's department. And we enter into our interlocal every year for this grant.
Scott, is that going down, staying the same?
It actually went up this year. Last year was 18 grand and this year went up to 35. I can't explain that. There's no rhyme or reason to what they do.
Did you say 35,750?
35,157.
Wow, that's 157.
So somebody's gonna get 50 cents, huh?
Yeah.
I'll move that for you, Scott.
I'll second it.
Okay.
Jeff?
Yeah.
What does the county plan to use those funds for?
We're gonna do surveillance equipment. We have for the past 5 or 6 years bought additional surveillance equipment in the county. And that, I can just say anecdotally, it's been very fruitful for investigations. We recently recovered an excavator and some suspects out of Oakland that had stolen one late in the night, and those cameras were instrumental for that, so.
Awesome.
Good stuff.
There's always certain things you can use that for, isn't there?
It's mostly equipment. To be honest with you, it makes it easier on my reporting and through the federal government.
Yeah.
Usually with those smaller amounts, we try and keep it at equipment.
Okay. Any other discussion? Roll call?
Chairman Belt,
Aye.
Supervisors Wickman.
Aye.
Schultz.
Aye.
And Groby.
Aye.
Okay.
you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Discussion and or decision to approve payment of $141,815.50 to the city of Council Bluffs for costs related to the Southwest Iowa 100-yard shooting range addition.
So moved. Where are we taking those funds from, Justin?
Yeah, right now they're coming out of gaming, the first two are.
I'll second that.
After the budget amendment, we'll probably move it over to the land fund at that point in time.
Yeah, I saw your email, was it last
Yeah.
week?
Yeah.
And I think we're all up to date on invoices, aren't we, Mitch?
Yep, we're all
Good.
caught up, and
Good.
I think, you know, for the purposes of, I think just maybe a little update of where everything is probably all we really need.
Is that on schedule then?
It is, and we were down there for a construction meeting last Tuesday. They still plan about the end of August to be completed. And I'm very amazed, especially with this rain, because they have to scrape gumbo off that floor to just pour concrete and stuff, but they've been doing a great job.
Oh, okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
John Rasmussen, County Engineer, discussion and decision to set public hearing to receive comments on plan specs, form of contract, and an estimated cost for the road operations center grading project on Eastern Hills Drive for July 27th at 10 a.m.
Yeah, so that item's for us to march ahead on letting a grading contract on the roads operations center. Looking for letting on August 10th, just one of the steps in that process.
I'll move that for you, Scott.
I'll second it.
And set the, public hearing for July 27th at 10.
Okay. And then you said, we will do the, August, what'd you say? The August,
August 10th's the goal. We'll get through that public hearing first, then work on a letting date after that.
Does that give you enough time, John, to get the grading done this year?
Yes.
do we normally have to do a public hearing on that?
For vertical infrastructure, that's how I read the Iowa code. They have to have a public hearing to approve for comment on the plans and bids. Then I need a resolution from you to accept the plans
Okay,
before the lettings.
okay. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Next up, we have Keith Skinner, CFO, Western Iowa Networks, discussion and or decision to write letter of support for OCIO to support Empower Rural Iowa Broadband Grant request to expand broadband access in rural Pot County.
Good morning.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Kevin,
Did I say
Kevin
Keith?
Skinner.
I'm sorry, Kevin.
It's okay. Not a problem.
That was a Freudian, because I have a pretty good friend named Keith.
Not a problem at all. So I'm Kevin, I'm the CFO at Western Iowa Networks, and we're headquartered out of Breda, Iowa, up in Carroll County. But we actually have a lot of customers down here in southwest Iowa, in Mills and Pottawatomie County. Thank you very much. We serve.
Don't have any other choice.
Oh, yeah, okay, well, we've served just under about 1,000 customers in, Pacific Junction in Mills County, Farragut in Fremont County, and then in Macedonia, Trainer, in Pottawatomie County. We also serve, customers in Glenwood and Mills, and, we're starting to creep up into, the eastern edge of Council Bluffs. And so, everything that we do, we're trying to serve with fiber optics. We do have some wireless customers. We're actively right now trying to convert all of our existing wireless serving area to fiber though, and go 100% fiber. We're already 100% fiber optics in all of our serving areas up north, which I won't get into that, but we also serve a lot of customers in our northern serving territory. In order to build out fiber, it's very expensive. It's costly, and in a rural area, it's even more costly on a cost per address basis, just because there's less people per square mile to serve with that fiber. But at the same time, it's a worthy investment because it's a future-proof technology that sets up that area. The customers that are able to utilize that fiber will be able to utilize that investment for the next 30, 40 plus years. We'll find out how long that fiber is going to last, but it's going to be there for a long time. And basically, once that fiber's in the ground, compared to other technologies, there's nothing that can deliver the speed and the reliability and the stability internet connection that fiber can. The state of Iowa has been doing a series of rounds of grant funding. Started probably about 3 years ago. I think 2019 was the first round of funding that they did through the OCIO, the Chief Information Officer. They're administering the grant program. And we've been active in all of the previous 5 rounds and have been successful in getting some kind of grant funding for a project that we proposed to build, and it's all been fiber optics. A lot of it has been in the area just south of here in Mills County, and I do have some handouts here I'll share with you. Much of it has been in Mills County, but we're also starting to move up north into Potawatomi County as well. And I'll explain what I'm handing out here to you in just a moment here. And I might have a copy of that as well, but yeah, so just to give you a little background on the grants. The first page that I gave you, that you see there, the areas in yellow identify either areas that we were already serving prior to the grants and prior to construction that was funded by these grants, and then some other areas that we have built out and it was done with the help of these grants. As I mentioned, we already serve Pacific Junction, and that exchange has been overbuilt within the last few years. The green areas there are kind of small, but there are areas there. There's a Hickory Ridge subdivision on the south end of Glenwood. There's also an area that we call GR1 that's directly south of Glenwood on the other side of Highway 34. There's an area, Cedar Hills, which is a subdivision outside of the town of Malvern. And in round 2 of the grant funding, we were awarded a small amount of money there to build that out. The blue area we called Glenwood Cares because it was funded by a CARES grant program. The state of Iowa received money from the federal government, and this had to do with the pandemic, the COVID pandemic last year. And they had an emergency broadband grant funding round, and we were successful in getting funding to build out fiber in that area as well. The area right to the west of that is what we call our Les Hills project. And you can see there, I don't know if it shows up on that map, but I tried to draw a marker line there where those areas do actually go up a little bit into Potawatomi on the southern southeast edge of Council Bluffs. We're also building out areas around Mineola, Silver City, to the west, or to the east of Glenwood rather. And then a large area in purple, Glenwood South is what we're calling that project. It goes down just north of Tabor, Iowa. And then the yellow area, the last item on there, is the city and the surrounding areas of Malvern. There's a lot of areas in Mills County that are not served well. The maps that providers submit to the FCC to report what their speeds are are not accurate a lot of times. And the experience that customers are actually having with their internet service and their speeds isn't as good as what's reported. And so areas that seem to be served really aren't served very well. Case in point with the blue area there, the Glenwood Cares, we almost have that completely built now. And that area was supposedly, many of the addresses were supposed to be served in that area. But when we found out that we were going to do this project, we started to do some advertising, letting people know we were going to do this. And there are about 600 addresses, 650 addresses in that area. And when the folks that lived there found out that there was a provider coming in that was going to be offering fiber optics, we started getting a lot of signups. And right now we have about a 65, almost 70% penetration there. And we haven't even cut customers over yet. This was just people signing up in advance to get service when we were ready to offer it to them. And that doesn't happen in an area that's adequately served, where there are two equal competitors or more that are offering, the same level of service and are competitively priced. You wouldn't expect that to happen. It just shows that the area is not served as well as people say it is. And I would expect that, like rural Mills, rural Potawatomi is probably similar, very similar. So that's where these grants come in. There's a lot of unserved areas that need better service. There's a reason why these areas haven't been built, because of the fact that in rural areas, like I said, it is costly to do that. And grants are the only way to create that incentive for providers to go in and build these areas out. The second and third pages that I gave to you paint a little bit of a picture of the grant program, round 6, that I want to talk about here today. Round 6 of the broadband grant program, applications are due the 28th, next week, Wednesday. There's about $97.5 million that the state has up for grabs for providers that apply for funding to build out areas. And depending on the color there on that second page, dark blue areas are areas that can receive up to 75% grant funding. The slightly lighter blue areas can receive up to 50% funding. And then the areas that are kind of a bluish green can receive 35% grant funding. So it depends on how well they're served today. So the ones that are in dark blue, I guess you could consider those as being they have the worst service, or maybe lack of service there. When you look at that map, you might say, wow, there's a lot of areas there that are unserved. There's a lot of blocks that are going to be up for grabs in that application. But unfortunately, that's not necessarily the case. On that third page, I have the same map with a different color of block on there. And everywhere where you see a yellow block there is an area where you may have a block that's on page 2 and it's marked with one of those colors indicating that it's not served today. However, that same block on this second or third page, if it's marked in yellow, that means it's been awarded in one of the prior state broadband grant rounds. And because it's already received an award prior, it's not eligible to be applied for again. So what that does, obviously, is it unfortunately narrows down a lot of these areas that today are unserved, and they're not going, where you won't be able to get any additional funding to serve those areas. You might ask, okay, if they've received an award, then why aren't they served? It could be that they just recently received an award and the project, maybe to construct out to that area and build out to it, it hasn't happened yet. It's recent enough that they gave a timeline that it's going to be 2 years before we build this area out, and it just hasn't happened yet. I can also say that a lot of these areas that you see in yellow, many of them were awarded to one fixed wireless company or another. They're going to offer fixed wireless service in that area, and it remains to be seen if that fixed wireless provider is truly going to be able to build out and get their fixed wireless signal out there and reach with a reliable and fast service every customer in that block. There's going to be line of sight issues where maybe they can't get to that customer, terrain issues if it's hilly. we'll see. I guess all I can say is it remains to be seen how well those areas that have already been awarded prior, how well they're going to be served. At the bottom of that map, I can tell you that some of those areas, right at the very bottom of the map, that's yellow, the third page, some of those areas are, you'll see they match up with areas on our first page where we received awards right on the south edge of Potawatomi, the northern edge of Mills County, where you see Mineola to the west there. Those are the areas that we were awarded. And so some of that's already built out and some of it will be built out here either before the end of the year or by spring of next year. So having said all that, the main reason that we were here today is we were requesting, and I saw that you had the email that I had sent in your board packet. That email kind of lays out our request. Basically, we were requesting a letter of support from Potawatomi County in support of our grant application. We're working on that grant right now. We'll have it ready and we'll submit it by the deadline next week. And our intent is to include many of those blocks that you see in Potawatomi County that are unserved today and haven't already been awarded. We want to go after those blocks in our application and get awarded to help fund a build out of fiber to those blocks. Some of those areas fall close to the area where we're at today, but more to the east in the rural area. So it's going to be more rural Potawatomi County. Obviously, the city of Council Bluffs, there aren't going to be any blocks that are available to serve this city because it's already considered served. They're going to be the rural areas. And so that's our intention, is to build those areas out with fiber, continue expanding our fiber footprint into these areas and get them served. And so we're hoping that the Board of Supervisors would support that and provide us with a support letter that we can include in our application. Everything has to be filed online for our application. So we're gathering these letters of support, we're including them in our application, and we'll submit it online next week. And the specifics are in that email that I sent. And then just in general, you know, I've already talked a lot here, so I'll wrap up, but we would like to use this as an opportunity to maybe start having more discussions with the county about how can we partner together? What ways can we get more reliable broadband service out into more and more areas of Potawatomi County? I would use Mills County as an example of how we've partnered with the county to do that very thing. And we've had a great relationship with the Board of Supervisors and the economic development down in Mills County. And we've had a lot of success. And our goal, and I think we're getting close, we're very close to this goal, is to overbuild nearly that entire county with fiber between us and maybe another provider or two, our neighboring telecom companies that maybe have already built out some of those areas. We're working on finishing it off, and basically Mills County will be served. We'd love to do the same thing with Potawatomi County. Maybe that's a discussion for another day, but we want to kind of open up that discussion. But the main reason, obviously, is to ask for that letter of support. Thank you.
Questions?
What, with that grant, are there required speeds you have to provide?
There are, yes. So you have to provide, and we will provide 100 meg download speeds and 100 meg upload speeds. I think 80% of the grant funds that are available have to go to a project that will provide 100 by 100. 20% of the grant funds are reserved for projects that will provide 100 megs download and 20 meg upload speeds. I think that's part of the grant proceeds are going to be carved out for more like a fixed wireless carrier, because fixed wireless can't provide 100 meg upload speeds at this point. The technology, there's no way that can happen. So there is some funding available for those types of projects, but most of it is for what you'd call future-proof, or basically a fiber to the home project. The areas that have the highest funding that I mentioned before, 75%, those are areas that today they've determined that area can't get the minimum of 25 down by 3 meg upload speed. If it can only get 25 or less, then it can be funded at 75%. So those are those areas that really need the service bad. The 50% funded areas, the lighter blue areas, are areas where today customers can get greater than 25 by 3, but they can't get 50 meg internet service. So 50% funding for those areas. That third tier, that third area, the 35% funding is for areas that today they can get service that's greater than 50 meg, but they are less than 80 meg internet speed. So there's 3 tiers of funding, and based on the tier, it determines how much funding percentage is available for your construction. But the requirement is you have to serve it with 100 by 100. And fiber will do that, no problem. I mean, they'll be able to get much more than that.
The fiber that you run, is it pretty much typically all run in the county right-of-ways or easements?
We typically use the right of way. Yes, we'll be, unless we have to get a permit from the railroad, if we have to bore under a railroad track or something like that.
So is there, I assume, and John, maybe you, is there multiple fibers running in our right-of-ways from multiple companies?
There could very well be. And I think, and John, I think our CEO, Jeff Royland, and our Director of Operations, Christina, may have had some conversations with the county engineer already and have been talking with them. Yeah, you're right. There could very well be more than one provider that has transport fiber or distribution fiber to serve customers in that area, right in the same vicinity.
Do they bury all those at the depth? I mean, is that anything that we?
Depends where they're located. I mean, they're in the right of way. There's, on gravel roads, we have them put it in the middle of the road and bore under the pipe. So it really depends where they're running at, I guess.
Yeah, really?
And we typically, a lot of times we try to stay like up on the high end of the ditch, right, off the side of the road. But yeah, I mean, there's any number of ways that it can get buried. There could be multiple sheaths of fiber, and you could even have situations where if more than one company do a joint build together, they could share the cost of the build and have one sheath of fiber, but they share the fiber counts within that sheath. Yeah, I guess I don't want to go into too great a detail, but yeah, there could be more than one fiber going through an area.
Did you send a draft letter that you were wanting us to look at? Or
I don't believe that I sent a template, but that's something that I could easily provide. If the board wanted to have a letter to tweak, I could provide something. There's time, I could provide a letter.
Okay.
There's time, it's July 28th, the deadline, right?
I'm sorry, what was that?
July 28th, the deadline?
July 28th is the deadline. It's all submitted online, and I don't intend to wait till the last day. We'll probably submit it Tuesday the 27th, in case the server crashes or something like that. I mean, you never know, so.
These areas, we had one, I think it was last week, present for a similar, I assume it's the same grant, but for different areas of the county. The map was for a different area, so I think, I guess my feeling is the more the merrier as far as fiber, the way it sounds, that we have available out there from a competitive standpoint also, so.
What's your average monthly charge for an internet connection?
We have, our introductory speed in our fiber areas is the 100 by 100 is the lowest speed. The regular monthly price on that is $69.99 a month. We typically are always running promotions. Right now, we ran a promotion started a promotion where it's $59.99, for the first 2 years. We've done it in the past where it was $20 off for the first year. We've done, first 3 months free. But at any given time, we're running some kind of a promotion, but that's the regular retail price, and then it goes up from there. We've got some retention, packages where we've got a small amount of customers that are on a lower speed. If it's an issue where they don't, or if they can't afford to pay, that much money, and they are okay with the lower speed, we do have like a retention package that we can provide, but we don't advertise that. And then we do also have some customers, not many, but some that have applied for low-income support where they can get, it's about $10 a month roughly off of their internet bill. Is through the USF, through the Lifeline program. It's low-income support through the FCC. And low-income subscribers, if they can provide proof that they meet the criteria, they can apply for that and they can receive that.
But that $70, the landline cost is on top of that $70.
The landline would be in addition to that, but if you have more than one service with us, we also provide a multi-service discount for each of those services, so that takes another $10 off of your bill. If it's in an area where we provide video service as well, which isn't all of our areas right now, in the southern serving areas, we don't provide digital TV service today. But in some of our other areas, we do. And with those services where if you have all three services bundled together, phone, internet, and video, there's a larger discount for bundling that service together. It basically makes it as if the phone were free of charge, for the most part. So we don't require phone service in all of our serving areas. In the areas where we're competing with other providers and we're not the incumbent carrier there, we don't require phone service, and a lot of people honestly today don't take phone service. They're fine with just internet, so.
Chairman Belt, I'll make a motion to authorize the chairman to sign the letter of support for Western Maryland.
Second.
Any other discussion? So, do you know offhand how many customers you have in Pot County as of now?
In Macedonia, I just had it up here. I'll tell you, if you don't mind, give me a second here. We serve in Macedonia. We've been the provider in Macedonia for many, many years. Macedonia was also overbuilt with fiber about 3 years ago. In Macedonia, we serve about 125 broadband subscribers. And that's not just the city, that's some of the rural areas surrounding Macedonia as well. We serve Trainer, Iowa today, and that's just the city of Trainer, but the city of Trainer is overbuilt with fiber. We also serve some wireless around Trainer as well, but we have about 170 subscribers in Trainer. And then we probably have about 50 subscribers that would fall within the Council Bluffs exchange that's served today by CenturyLink is the incumbent provider for Council Bluffs, not the city, but the areas around it and dipping down south towards Mills County. We serve some customers down there as well. So probably, a few hundred subscribers today in Pottawatomie County that are on fiber, maybe another 50 to 75 customers that we serve wirelessly that we would like to get fiber built out to. The potential there is, there's, in the areas that we're looking to build out to, there are several hundred, 500, 600 customers that we would pass, and obviously we would hope to serve as many of those as we could.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
In Carson and Oakland, it used to be Frontier, but are you serving, and they're not Frontier anymore, I think
I think they're still served by Frontier. There's another provider that I know has gone into Oakland and has started to overbuild Omnitel. Yes, that has started to overbuild Oakland, part of Carson. That's just north of our Macedonia exchange.
Okay. No, I just saw them on the map. It looked like
and that's just directly east of Trainer. The Carson exchange butts up against Trainer.
Okay.
Okay, No other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. So if you want to get it,
Will do. I'll share a letter.
get it to Andrew and we'll get
I'll
it.
do that. I'll send it to Andrew.
Okay.
You said Breda, Iowa, is that where you say you're from?
Breda, B-R-E-D-A, yeah.
So that's where, Red's place is in that.
Yes, it is.
Oh, well, said hi for me.
Thank you.
There are 1,500 telecoms in the country. 150 of them are the small telecoms. 150 of them are in Iowa.
You got it. Iowa has more independent telephone companies than any other state. I think South Dakota might be second.
Yeah.
But, yeah, the independent telephone companies are what, they're driving broadband expansion in the state. If it were left to the big three, CenturyLink, Frontier, and Windstream,
They wouldn't touch it like
wouldn't
that.
it?
Yeah. I was at a workshop last week, the IT guy said that 5G is going to overwhelm fiber.
I don't know that that's gonna happen anytime soon. 5G, maybe in a metropolitan area where
Yeah.
you've got
And maybe
100
doesn't
people
know
in a
what-
city block where it would make sense, obviously, to hit that many people, you can make a business case for it. For 5G in a rural, sparsely populated area, you would have to have so many towers
Yeah,
to do that. And then ultimately, those towers have to be served with some kind of backhaul for the data, and it's fiber. You have to have fiber to
Yeah.
those towers. That's kind of the dirty secret. A lot of people think, well, data wirelessly just jumps wirelessly, right, from tower to tower. No, it requires fiber, so. 5G in a rural area, it's probably gonna be a while.
yeah.
Yeah, not to say that it isn't gonna happen, but it's gonna be a while before it's deployed that broadly that you
No,
can
I'm not
serve.
holding my breath.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Thank
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have Drew Camp, President, CEO, Woods Plus Area Chamber of Commerce, discussion and your decision to approve funding request for the Workforce Development Program.
Thanks, Chairman Belt and Supervisor Schultz, Groby, and Wickman. And Kevin, thanks for the work you're doing too. We were happy to write a letter of support for your guys' project
Thank
too.
you. We appreciate it.
And that was a big lift at the state capitol this year, so we're really happy to see that we're getting some applications in. But we're excited to be here today to talk about our workforce development program and ask for your guys' consideration for future discussions around a potential $50,000 appropriation to support the workforce development program. What I'll do is I'll start off by kind of laying the groundwork and kind of showing the need. We all know it's a big need, but I want to show some of the data that we have that speaks to it. And then I'll let Alicia Fries, our Workforce Development Director, talk a little bit about some of the specific programmatic pieces that we have going on. And then I'll kind of wrap it up again. And then obviously we welcome your questions. One thing I'll also say though is please just feel free. I can talk fast. I get going fat and get in depth on some things sometimes. If you have a question, stop me and ask me. I'm perfectly fine with that. So we just look forward to having a conversation with you guys. But if you look at the last few years, especially over the last 10 years, workforce has been one of the predominant challenges of our employers. That's no secret. There's many partners in trying to address the issue. We work a lot with all of them, including Advanced Southwest Iowa and other economic development, community development partners here in the community. But chambers of commerce are natural locations for these services. We see that in a lot of different areas, and we see that with a lot of success throughout the state of Iowa, being housed in chambers of commerce. And for nearly 2 years, I'm sure most of you know this, but the Council Bluffs Chamber has been providing workforce development services as part of an agreement with the Iowa West Foundation with some grant funding that we received. And that's developed into the Workforce Collaborative and then allowed us to hire Alicia Fries, and she's doing a great job growing the program, which we'll talk about a little bit more here. What's also important to note is it's not just the Iowa West Foundation right now that's underwriting the program. Obviously, we have some expenses being borne by the chamber, as you would expect, but we also have private sponsors, and we've seen a broad cross-section of different industries in supporting those from the private sector from our member base. But we also have the city of Council Bluffs, who included a $50,000 appropriation in their FY 2022 budget to help fund the program as well. Since Alicia came on in September, we've grown exponentially, and really what we're doing right now is we continue to show and demonstrate the value that the program can provide to the community and the surrounding areas. We're going out and we're really securing those funds from the nonprofit sector, the public sector, and the private sector. If you're going to be successful in this field, you have to have it from all three, and that's something we're really passionate about. We do look forward to illustrating the needs of such services and resources and showcasing our efforts to this point. And as I did note, I did want to be clear that we do plan on formally asking for your consideration of a $50,000 appropriation for our workforce development program. And I really hope as we have a conversation here about what we're doing, you'll see the merit in considering such a request. As I kind of dig into some of the data as to where this request comes from and why there is such a need, I wanted to talk about the Best of Iowa. And if you're not familiar with the Best of Iowa, annually the Chamber and Paula and her team at Advanced Southwest Iowa partner to perform existing industry visits with primary employers. It's really, really important. We partner with our utility partners and others throughout the state to make sure we're getting quality aggregate data. It's then presented in the Best of Iowa report, which is distributed at the end of the year or beginning of the following year, so December, January. We get some of this good data that's reported out in an aggregate fashion. Last year, recruitment of qualified employees was reported as second biggest issue. As you can imagine, I think there's no surprise that the uncertainty of the pandemic surpassed it. It's usually workforce number one, but that's the one thing that did overtake it last year in the 2020 report. And it was most frequently shown and illustrated by the building trades and manufacturing. Obviously, two areas we do have quite a bit of employment in this area. There was 813 companies that were interviewed, and 429 of them indicated that they were experiencing recruitment problems, and 144 of them lost high-value employees in the last 6 months. So another big thing is not only are they losing those, you also look out at some other companies, as Paul and I go and visit with them with our surveys, they're losing people in the next 18 months, 2 years. A lot of them have succession plans, some of them don't. So that's something we have to have conversations about as to how those are going to be filled and how those companies are going to continue to grow going forward. Of those 144 companies, losses have most impacted healthcare and social assistance, building trades, and manufacturing, as I noted. Workforce availability continues to be an ongoing challenge despite workforce reductions as a result of the pandemic. And the companies with the largest number of employees, about 2/3 of them with 500 plus, are experiencing recruitment issues, and we have quite a few of those, as you can imagine, in our community. And I could list off some of them, but I'm pretty sure you're aware of who those would be. As I move forward and kind of talk a little more about the Best of Iowa, one of the things that you really look at is what maturity level a company is. And there's growing, emerging, maturing, and declining companies. They all reported equal levels of workforce recruitment problems, and they anticipate significant workforce challenges. Growing and emerging companies on average are needing more employees, and we're working with them a lot, as you can imagine. But one of the things that's so important to show is that this issue in this data shows that the impact of workforce development needs is facing all levels and sizes of companies, which is something that's really, really important to note. Another group that we work closely with is Iowa State University CIRIS, the Center for Industrial Research and Services. And they also did a workforce study, and they released it within the last about 6 months. And they found, once again, as you would imagine, that workforce is a big issue. And that to help address it, we need to recruit diverse groups of workers because Iowa is unlikely to reverse more than a century of weak population growth. Just to show that, the U.S. population has grown since 1950 by 220%. Iowa's grown by 20%. We all know that we have a lot of great things to showcase here in Pottawatomie County and the state of Iowa, but we need to continue to make sure we're growing that workforce and that population. Some of the things that CIRIS recommends to do is look at hiring immigrants, people with disabilities, retirees, ex-convicts, veterans, apprentices, homeless, laid-off workers. There's resources for a lot of those populations as well to assist with that. Alicia has done a really, really good job of identifying those and working with those demographics and those individuals to really make sure that we're implementing things that can help those specific demographics and target those that we have a strong number of in our community. The Iowa Business Council is another group that we work a lot with. They're the 22 largest companies in the state of Iowa, and they do an annual report as well. And obviously, as you can imagine, workforce is a big topic that they talk about as well. They identified that job demands of the future, working with K-16 education systems to engage students and educators in developing career pathways, are essential areas of public-private partnerships. Those are things that we're doing. They also said that scalable and sustainable solutions need to be provided for work-based learning opportunities for all students and must be implemented for companies to offer internships, externships, and apprenticeships. And Alicia will touch on some of the great things we're doing in some of those areas. Another thing that we're doing a lot with in our workforce development initiative as well is childcare. We have P4C. It's easier to say than the whole title, but it's really our childcare collaborative that Alicia is overseeing, and we're really having leaders in the community come together to address that issue. There was a lot of assistance, just as there was a lot of assistance passed for broadband. There was also a lot of assistance passed this year for childcare. So we're really trying to bring those to bear for our workforce, for our employers as well.
With that, Alicia is going to touch on some of the key specifics programmatically within our workforce development program, and I'm really excited for you to hear more because she's doing a really good job. So Alicia, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Drew. I do talk a little fast as well, not as fast as Drew, but please feel free to stop me at any moment if you have questions. I'm just going to give a little bit of a background. We touched a little bit on how my position became through the Iowa West Foundation's grant. And so in 2018, a group of HR managers got together and they kind of wanted to do some research on what it was that was really affecting Pottawattamie County and Council Bluffs in our workforce, and some steps they wanted to see happen so that we can kind of start to adjust that curve. One of the first things that they saw is that they wanted to reduce our turnover to 10%. Of the workers that participated in a survey at that time, their turnover was over 33%. Currently, we are still doing those talent surveys, and what I'm seeing right now is actually around a 40 to 50% turnover rate post-pandemic. So that's something that we definitely want to look at addressing. We also wanted to increase the number of individuals in our labor pool. So our labor pool workforce rate currently was about 66%. That again is down. What we've seen since the pandemic is that over 7 million people in the United States have left the workforce completely, whether they just decided to retire early because they were baby boomers, they don't have childcare, or they have elderly needs. Those are some of the 3 top ones that we're looking at that have affected those individuals returning back to the workforce. So what can we do as a community to ensure that we are reaching those that have left the workforce, encouraging them and supporting them to return to that workforce? Of those that are in the workforce, less than 40% of them had any continued education or certifications outside of high school. So what can we do as a community to ensure that we're providing them the training and education that they need to be successful? And then we want to increase the number of fully funded apprenticeship programs. That is, our Future Ready initiative that we have taken place. At the time that this survey was done in 2018, there was less than 10% of our businesses in Council Bluffs had an apprenticeship, pre-apprenticeship, or fully funded apprenticeship program. So that's kind of the areas that we started looking at, and the programs that I put into place start to immediately address those. So one of the first things I looked at was our website, and decided we really need to be a hub for everybody of the resources that are actually available in Council Bluffs. Of course, the Chamber can't provide everything, and we actually do have a lot of programming available in Council Bluffs if you know that it's there. So we did create some resource pages. Those resource pages are actually for our employers as a hub of where they can get grant assistance, where they can get funding, maybe find a new pipeline of workforce for themselves, so that's available for them. We also have a page for our job seekers that provide them with a lot of their outside resources. Some of our entry-level associates, of course, have problems trying to figure out or navigate their home life, which then affects their work life. So we do have a lot of those resources available on that page for them. As well, we've created a job seeker sign-up where they will receive an email from us every Monday with some opportunities and resources available. The next that we have is our student resource page. Same thing, we just kind of put together for all of our students some resources and opportunities that they have, including a new youth job board. And then we also have our veteran resource page. As we know, being a veteran in Iowa is probably the best place to live, but how many veterans know that, and what can we do to make sure that we're spreading that word and helping them find employment? Some of the framework that the collaborative wanted to see initially was that they want some lunch and learns as professional development series. So I'll chat a little bit about that and what we've been able to put together since I came on in September. We want to become a work-ready community, which is an ACT program, and that means that as businesses, we say that we know what the NCRC is, which is our National Career Readiness Certification, and that is actually offered for free through Iowa for all residents, and is encouraged that all students take that before they graduate. So that's a great way for our employers to be able to bridge that gap with their workforce when hiring them, make sure that they hire them correctly. I'm happy to say that we are 99% there, so we have about 30 businesses that just need to say that they understand what that is, that they recognize the NCRC when hiring somebody, and then we will become certified. And becoming certified, and that will then provide us with even more information about what skill requirements are required in the bulk of our jobs in Council Bluffs, and where the skill set actually lies with the bulk of our residents. And I will say that we have over 7,000 residents that have taken that, so we do have some good data that will be provided to us once we get certified. We also wanted to create a Best Places to Work program or participate in the Omaha program. After digging in a little bit to the Omaha program, we discovered that really was more of a competition, and they only awarded 10 people. Whereas in Council Bluffs, we really wanted to create a platform for businesses to publicly say that their associates enjoy working for them, they potentially have less turnover, they maybe have greater benefits, and give them a voice to share that. So we were able to create that this year, and out of those that enrolled, 16 businesses were awarded that unbelievable workplace stamp given to them by their associates. And then we want to start helping with our work lab initiatives. And so we do partner with Grow out of Omaha, and they've got navigators that they can put on site. Again, to help your associates with that work-life balance and those things that might be creating barriers for them to come to work. We also work with Bridges Out of Poverty to do the same thing. So the job board was something that we've had for a while, but it wasn't really being utilized, and so we have really pushed that out, and it's grown in a number of ways, so our members can post there for free as many jobs as they like. We typically have about 75 jobs per week, around 200 jobs per month, and around 2,000 views of job seekers per month going to that job board. And so out of that, we also have that job seeker enrollment page where they can sign up and receive a newsletter every Monday that directs them back to that job board. Also gives them education opportunities and any other job fairs or opportunities that they have to find a job. On that job board, we also included some new categories where you can now filter down and decide if it's full-time, part-time, seasonal. Of course, with the pandemic, work from home has been very popular, so they can indicate that that's a work from home. As well as we started that youth job board, just a new pipeline for workers to try to, or businesses to try to find workers is through the youth. And so making sure that you indicate whether or not that is a position that's open for somebody in high school. The workforce lunch and learns were something that we chatted about that was a desire. We do have those now monthly. Typically, our attendance is about 15 to 30 individuals. And the itinerary of our workforce lunch and learns is it is sponsored by one of our members, and it's kind of a roundtable discussion at that point where they're able to bring some of their skills or services to the table to their members, discuss maybe about some opportunities or some services that they provide to their associates that have helped them with either recruitment or retention. We also then bring in a guest speaker that will speak on either recruitment, retention, professional development, or tools and resources that are available to our HR managers so that they can find and keep valuable associates. For our professional development series, we've got 2 series available now. One of them has concluded. There are 2 more coming up, as well as some in the pipeline. The first one that we had was our new and emerging leaders, and this was in partnership with Business Ethics Alliance out of Omaha. They came in, it was a 4 half-day workshop series that they conducted for us for new and emerging leaders about how to be an ethical leader and how to take that to the next level. Gallup did a survey of over 1 million workers, and 75% of them said they left their job because of their managers, not because of their position. So we think it's very important for us to start looking at the leaders in Council Bluffs and making sure that just because you're a super worker, you don't become a supervisor that's untrained of how to lead another individual. So that's what these professional development workshops really focus on, is how to become an ethical leader, make sure that you have a right team and that you're able to kind of a focus in place for them and to give them some tasks. The next one is your next level leadership that really looks at our executive and C-suite leaders, kind of lets them know what level of influence they have on their leadership, how to take themselves to that next level, and then also how to bring up their leadership with them. Work-based learning, of course, we've chatted quite a bit about that. That's a big topic for us. We want to make sure that our students know that they can have a great job here in Council Bluffs, even if it's in IT, and they don't have to leave here to go somewhere else. And so we are working with our school districts. And we did just launch Grow CB, which is a new program. It just puts a public platform to any business that it's working with the high schools or junior highs. If you are a youth employer, if you do apprenticeships, pre-apprenticeships, job shadowing, etc., then you become a Grow CB participant. We do have a plaque presentation that we do for them, and then we also put them on our website. This does encourage other businesses to then get involved with the high schoolers. Make sure that high schoolers really have a map of how to become what career they've chosen. Right now, I think that's one of the biggest challenges for high schoolers is they may say, here's where I want to go, but there's nobody there leading them or navigating them on that pathway.
Quick question for you.
Yeah.
With these, especially these kids going through the Grow CB, how are we measuring that? Or do we have some way to know, okay, so kids leave, they go off to Iowa State, go to University of Iowa, and they come back. Do we have a way to know if they've come back? I mean, where are we getting the demographic information?
So that is actually something I'm working on now, trying to come up with a new plan that we can work with the schools to do surveys with those students of like, hey, once you're inside a Grow CB or you're able to participate with the business in some fashion, do you plan on leaving? Do you plan on coming back? There is TAI that has some sort of a service as well that kind of maps out who graduated from Council Bluffs, where they left and went to college, and if they've come back. It also provides us with a little bit of information on how to then kind of reach out to them and try to get them to relocate back to Council Bluffs. And so that's some communications that we have as well. It's not something we have in place right now. Hopefully some funding will help us get that going. So,
And TAI is the Technology Association of Iowa.
a great question. So yeah, it's definitely something we're thinking about. Immediately, we do have some metrics in place of we want to know how many students we want to impact, how many businesses we want involved, and also how many volunteer hours we want, and we'll have those available quarterly. Apprenticeship programs, we chatted quite a bit about that. There is less than 10% of apprenticeships in Council Bluffs, and so we are setting up quite a few meetings with IWD and local businesses, just trying to educate them on the importance of that. Actually, next month, Todd with IWD will be presenting about apprenticeship programs, why they're a great opportunity and how to get those started. Right now, I think a big fear of some individuals is just what that looks like, and that if you get the government involved, of course, then it's gonna be very strict. But this is just kind of educating them about how their program really is theirs. They still hire their own associates, they still go through the application process, but it's a great way for them to provide their own pipeline of associates. Relocation programs is something that I think that, of course, as we chatted about, 20% growth in Iowa isn't what we want to see. In Council Bluffs, I'm sure that we can say that we're much lower than 20% when it comes to relocating individuals. So the first thing that we start looking at is veterans. There are a lot of opportunities for veterans to relocate to Iowa, and so what can we do additionally in Potawatomi County to give some incentives? So we did work with the VA, and they have approved a $2,500 grant that veterans can apply for if they purchase their first home as a relocation to Council Bluffs. We also created a relocation guide, and we are working with a technology company right now to figure out how we can do some geofencing and to figure out where we need to start marketing that to try to get more individuals to come to Council Bluffs. And so it is we've had some communications with the city as well about what the city can do for regular relocation incentives if you are not a veteran to Council Bluffs. And so those are things that we continue to look at.
Just real quick, I'll jump in. We are having a conversation here in the beginning of August too with some other resources with some specific data and marketing analyses that can be done, working with Paula and Ashley over at the city to see how we can potentially utilize those to do something like Alicia said, geofencing and target areas that we think would be of interest to get our information out to try to get some additional workers, and we'd welcome obviously someone from the county taking part in that too if you'd like.
The next slide or sheet here is just our unbelievable workplaces. I just kind of went over that again for you guys. We will open that up for 2022 again in December. We'll have the application go live once registration is closed. We then send all businesses a unique survey link that they can send out to their associates. There are some requirements that they have to have, like 75% of their associates do have to respond to that, and then there is some scoring that they have to hit in order to become an unbelievable workplace. And then we will have a celebration in 2022 as that program continues to develop and grow. So.
I gotta be a chamber member too, right?
No, you don't. Costs a little bit more if you're not, but you do not have to be a member. LinkedIn Learning, this is part of our upskilling program that we actually just launched recently, and that is our CB Career Acceleration Program. Our first cohort is for CNA, and so we're working in partnership with Iowa Western Community College and with LinkedIn Learning just to provide some wraparound services to their education to employment. Some of those wraparound services will be sitting down with the applicants of that program and actually finding out what barriers they have that would prevent them from going into that course, or prevent them from getting and keeping a career, and so we can try to help them provide that. Working with LinkedIn Learning provides them with a 1 year of online learning that they continue to grow and educate themselves and develop their skill set so that pipeline doesn't stop at CNA and we can actually kind of bring them out of poverty. And that will continue to go as we look at our high demand jobs right now. We'll continue to create those cohorts and move forward with Iowa Western Community College. Kind of already talked about our ACT program. Again, talks about how many emerging holders we need to have, current holders and transitioning holders, and we are well past all those requirements. Right now, we're just looking at needing 30 more businesses that will say that they understand what the National Career Readiness Certification is. If you don't know what that is, it's an aptitude test that looks at 3 different areas. They'll take that aptitude test, gives them a score in each area, and then as a business, you can jump onto ONET online, and you can look at your job that you're hiring for, and it will tell you where a candidate should score in each one of those 3 areas to be best suited for that position out the gate. So that way there you hire the right candidate with the quote-unquote soft skills that they need to be successful in that position.
When did they start doing those tests?
A few years ago, became available. It really just started to get pushed though when they pushed out their D+1, which is their Diploma +1 certification through the Council Bluffs Community School District.
Are those tests just given to seniors, or do they start taking them?
Seniors is when they typically would take them, and they're also available to any resident at IOWD. So you can go and take that for free every 3 months. You can go take it again and try to skill up. Once you've taken it for the first time, you gain access to ACT's Work Keys program, which then provides you with training and classes so that you can start to skill up.
I believe it came out in about 2014 or so. It's been about 5-6 years.
Really?
We are 99% certified right now, and once we become certified, we will be the third county in Iowa to become certified. Since we have done our light up day, which indicated in November 16th that we were gonna work towards becoming a work-ready community, 2 other communities have followed suit, so we're pretty proud of that.
So is there a way to find out if all the schools in the county are involved with that, the public schools?
I know for sure that Council Bluffs Community School District is. Actually, their TAP programs was the one that initiated getting us certified. Because it's a great way for us to be able to take any of our students that have any challenges or disabilities and find positions for them in the community.
Well, Lewis Central may not be doing it.
I have a meeting with Joe next month, so I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
So hopefully they are, and if not, hopefully I can get them on board.
Yeah, well, I'd be curious what the rest of the schools are doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. We also work a lot with Career Advantage, and I know that they work inside of Trainer and some other communities, and that it's offered there, so.
I think the thought is really try to get the 2 here within CB and then branch out to the ones out in the county.
And then lastly, we worked with a program called Connect Go Getting to Work Project, and they, through some funding, one of which was IWF, of course, provided some services to our larger employers that opted to participate. And they surveyed their associates, and what they were asking associates is, how do you get to work right now? What barriers do you have to get to work? And most importantly, how would you like to get to work? They were then able to kind of put together a strategic plan for those businesses that participated that might map out some ways that they can create those solutions for the businesses. Maybe it was carpooling, maybe it was bicycle paths, sidewalk paths, et cetera. Once that's done, we should be able to get some of that information ourselves so we can share that out with the county and also with MAPPA, just as we continue to look forward at what we do as a community to ensure that our workers can get to and from work. So some of the areas that we looked at, for example, would be like warrant distribution participated, and we know that they aren't easily accessible, especially for somebody that might be entry level, maybe doesn't have their own car. So that's the last of my programming. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks, Alicia. I think you can tell with, she's been on the job for 10 months, and she's a lifer. She's born and raised here, and she's got a lot of good experience, and she's doing really, really good things. When I was in Ames, we had a workforce development program for 8 years, and I can tell you they weren't doing some of these things, and we've had it for 10 months, and she's already doing them, so she's doing really, really good work.
Thank you.
Just to kind of close on some of the things and just bring it back up and then open it up for questions, we really do appreciate your consideration of our $50,000 request for workforce development funding. Going forward, I know this is always a question, the sustainability going forward piece. We would like to have additional consideration as part of the annual budgeting process to have a conversation of that money going forward into future years as well. Obviously, as things change, we'll have conversations about that, but we just want to have that be an option as part of the budgeting process. I think it's important, once again, to just focus on the fact that we started with just the Iowa West Foundation's kind of putting the money forward to kind of implement this and grow it. Since then, we're looking at other grants as well, but we've really grown that private sector support, and we're getting public sector support now as well. And we're just really, really happy with how this has grown over the last year, and we just hope to continue to be able to do that going forward. We'll be happy to work with the county on developing metrics, goals, objectives to make sure your guys' expectations are being met. One thing I will note is a lot of these programs are new. You'll know that, and with that we have data that's just coming in slowly, obviously, and so some of it we might have a year or two, but we don't have some year over year. But we will continue to get that more, obviously, as we go down the line, and we'll be happy to share that and have conversations with that data to really speak to some of these programs and different measures that you guys would want to see some results in, obviously. We would also be willing to report, whether it's monthly, quarterly, biannually, annually, whatever you deem appropriate and you would want to see us, how often you would want to see us to discuss what's going on, we'd be more than happy to come and do a presentation on what some of the great things we're doing with the workforce development program. And again, just in closing, we hope this will be the start of a conversation to continually support the workforce development program and workforce efforts here in Pottawatomie County, and we really look forward to your guys' questions.
I have a bunch, do you wanna go ahead?
What, you mentioned that this is partnered with Iowa West Foundation. What did they provide?
They provide,
Funding those?
the first grant was $150,000, and that goes through the end of the year. So calendar year, we're planning on applying again in the August round for growing it. You know, that was to really start and birth the program. Now we're applying for things, how can we grow it? So we plan on doing an application to them again in August. We don't know the exact dollar amount of that yet. It'll be 5 figures versus 6, but we are looking forward to having that conversation with them as well for that nonprofit funding. But like I also said, we're looking at other grant options as well. Google provides some grant options, Union Pacific provides some grant options, so we're trying to leave no stone unturned in that regard.
The $2,500 for veterans, have we worked on that at all? Have we utilized that at all, that program at all?
No.
No, not yet.
No, it just got released, and I think it just got put back on the agenda to get approved again, like something happened where they had to reapprove it, but it is kind of getting pushed out there now, we're just,
Last week that we were in session because they changed the meeting to Tuesday, but they had to redo it.
yeah, so it was supposed to go live in July, and now it's gonna kind of get pushed back a little bit, so.
Okay.
And it does empower the VA board too, which is nice for them to kind of have some oversight of that, being that, you know, obviously that's their demographic and population they work with.
You mentioned that you're in discussions with Iowa Western Community College. Is part of this workforce development also reaching the youth in our schools and getting plumbers and electricians and HVAC workers and those kind of things?
Most definitely, that's a lot of that gross EB and just working with those individuals in Council Bluffs and then also Lewis Central, and then, like I said, expanded out to the different school districts. That's a huge piece of any successful workforce program, is getting those employers into the schools, because that's hugely instrumental in being able to change perceptions and also just help foster that that thought in some of these kids. And we're not talking just even in high school. Sometimes you have to get into middle school. It's just being strategic as to how you do that.
So you mentioned Lewis Central and Council Bluffs. Has there been any effort yet to reach out to Underwood, Trainer?
Yeah, we work quite a bit with Career Advantage, and they work with them directly with their program. And so they're really excited actually to participate in the Grow CB program as well, which just really allows us to be a conduit to connect businesses to those school systems, kind of explain to them why it's important, facilitate some meetings, and continue to put a public platform to them for their participation.
Did you anticipate this to be a 5-year, 10-year experiment, exercise, project, whatever you want to call it?
I mean, I can't put an exact year on it, but it's not gonna go away. It's gonna continue to grow and adapt as the needs continue to surface within our workforce community.
Yeah, we've already had discussions about how we continue to grow each year to reach not just high school, but then work down into the middle school and then work down into our elementary schools. So we truly have a K through 12 program.
Have you also discussed how to fund it?
It'll be funded a lot through private funding, and then of course through some ask of the city and community.
Well, is there an annual budget for this?
Yeah, there is. We had to put something together for Iowa West Foundation, and then we continue to grow that with these new programs and things along those lines. Yes, so there is. It's part of our, obviously, chamber budget right now. Yeah.
It is part of the chamber budget now?
Yeah, because it's all comes out of that fund, all those accounts.
The, I understand this is a plan, but do you have anything for us to take a look at of what your benchmarks would be over a period of years?
We do have some pieces that Alicia has to report quarterly to Iowa West Foundation. That's one of those things that's part of that conversation as well. Being that it's such a young program, we know what they want to see and we're providing that information. If you guys want to see that plus XYZ, that's something we can have a conversation about, and we can make sure we're providing that information too. Like I said, though, the big thing is we might have it back from, the beginning of the Workforce Collaborative, which is about 2018-19, but you're not gonna have more than a year or two for the most part of data that we can really provide unless it's, stuff that IWD or other Iowa Workforce Development or others have, just because we're compiling that as we go.
I know it's easy to take a, I don't know, I shouldn't say easy, but we have Council Bluffs and Lewis Central Schools really close by with the Council Bluffs Chamber. I want to make sure that there's an effort to reach out to the other schools as well, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's understandable. And then you're working with Shalimar too,
Yeah.
to assist with other efforts out in the county as well.
The Best of Iowa Strategic Trends, is that state?
Yeah, so what that is it's really a collaboration with local economic development chambers and then the utility groups, the state economic development organization. They really push getting out there, doing those surveys. We have a form that we go out and do, and then Paul or I, we input that data, then it goes in, and our companies that we report on are part of those 813 total. Then they are able to provide a state report. They partner with the University of Iowa, Northern Iowa's Business and Community Services Institute of Decision Making to provide the analyses. And like I said, it comes out December, January, and it's due in September.
But they don't have any type of funding then?
Well, they do from the state, and yeah, it's from the utilities and IEDA. They do fund that, yes.
But it's not anything for the local?
No.
Okay.
Our role is inputting the data and getting the local data for
So
them.
the role of the state, that's what I'm trying, and I talked just a little bit yesterday with you about it. So the role of the state and their workforce development is, what are they doing? Are we doing in conjunction with them, or how?
So like Alicia talked about, internship programs, apprenticeship programs, those are all things that are run through the state. So you're going through Iowa Economic Development Authority. There's programs with Iowa Workforce Development that you're able to work on. You collaborate with them depending on the program and the means to what you're trying to accomplish. But that's something that it just depends on the program. But yes, we do use state resources as far as, like I said, whether it's data or programs that they provide. Iowa Workforce Development, for example, can provide some really good data as well if you're looking at specific wages or sectors or whatever it may be.
Would you consider this, if the county decides to participate in this funding to be a form of economic development?
Almost definitely. I mean, workforce is the core of economic development in a lot of ways right now. Paul is doing a great job. We have a very strong project activity, as you can see if you read the paper. But I mean, this is something that as we look to hire, 2,000 plus employees at some of these projects, it's going to be important. And the creativity and flexibility that we can provide with these programs, with additional funding to be able to bring those things to bear, like working with partners like Technology Association of Iowa and others who have specific targeted demographics and whatnot that they can work with. All of those things are really, really important. And fortunately, I've been able to work in this for quite some time. Like I said, Alicia is doing an amazing job, but one of the first things I did when I was at the Ames Chambers, I grew our workforce development program. I got into every single school district in the county. I helped legitimize it because it wasn't legitimate at that time. They didn't want the businesses in their schools. And so fortunately, I've had some experience doing that in both urban and rural settings. And it's been fun working with Alicia and watching her be really successful in that regard too.
So one more question. So we train and try to recruit workforce. Where are they gonna live?
That's a very good question, and I've had a lot of conversations about that with folks like you and the mayor and others, because we need to continue to look at housing. And one thing we've also been supportive of is, it's smaller projects right now, but we love working with NeighborWorks and 712 initiative, and the city has a housing application in for some infrastructure improvements for the community project, but it's the workforce development program, the workforce housing program at the state that we were just advocated to get additional funds, working with Senator Dawson and Representative Segrist to get the $40 million to pay off the backlog so Council Bluffs and urban communities in the state can start benefiting from that program. And we've already seen multiple applications from that. That's not the answer. That's not the only answer, but we need to make sure that we're also working on those housing pieces. That's something I more take on as, on the policy side a lot of the times. But those are things, whether we're at the State House, we talked about that a ton this year, or at the federal side. We're meeting with some of our federal delegation next week. Plan on talking to them about the city's housing program and also other things that we need to be doing to really just strategically be looking at, whether it's ARPA funds, whatever it may be, to put some infrastructure in to make sure that housing is a primary consideration of some of those funds. Because we know that you guys in the city have some very specific needs with those funds, but we think that there's a lot of value in looking at the biggest impact. And I think, to your point, infrastructure for housing is one of those, in my opinion.
Yeah,
I think that was kind of my comment too, is that that's probably the number one thing that scares me the most about any of these efforts is that where are they gonna go, where are they gonna live? You know, Jason's sitting in the back of the room,
Trainer.
you know, where they can build some more homes quickly and, but you know, I think this is absolutely needed. It's a necessary thing that we need to have for our community if we want to grow. I would echo a lot of what Tim's asking about getting out in the county too. I mean, obviously the city's already funded an effort for you, you're here to match that, but we also wanna make sure that, you know, we have that out there in the county too, so we're not forgetting about the trainers of the world and other places like that too that need the similar support, so.
You're right, I think if we can see, a plan of what their benchmark is, where they're gonna get, when are they gonna get to the schools, that kind of thing, it would help out some.
I think, I mean, for reporting aspect, I think just from my perspective, I think we should be something like quarterly, and just for us, is we need to know what metrics are important to measure. I mean, we don't wanna throw $50,000 a year at something and have it not really do anything. So if we're status quo and jobs are staying exactly the same, we're not getting new talent, it's not worth continuing to keep refunding it, cause it's already happening without you. No, don't take offense to that, it's just, it's a big investment for us, it's a penny on our levy.
Yeah.
So, you know, I'm supportive of it, I guess, if you know else anything want to say, I'll make the motion to approve 50,000. And I don't know, since it's economic development, if we can pull it out of one of those other funds, but if not, I'd say we go to gaming for now.
Yeah, and I think we have a new form we're gonna start using this year, which, you know, Morrison says, whoever comes in and asks for different funding, that, yeah, this is for economic development, some Iowa code stuff we're trying to cover, so I can send that over to you, just to fill out that little short form. It's like 1 page is all it is.
So yeah, I'd just say pull out of gaming for now, and if we can reimburse ourselves with one of those, do it, you know,
But I think you're right, Mitch, the form, to have them fill that justification out and such, and we.
And to your point on metrics and such too, I understand that this is the start of an additional conversation to what a formal agreement's going to look like, and I'm happy to provide that information and have those conversations, as we move forward with that as well.
So your motion is tentatively approve the funding until we get the contract?
yeah.
Well, is it,
Okay,
it's,
I can
well,
live with that one.
it's,
That's our understanding.
you're gonna give quarterly report, but probably in the future, for the board, it'd be better that you come in somewhere in December, January time and present your, whatever.
As part of the budget process?
Yeah, as
Yeah,
far
no, that'd
as-
be,
The budget's already been, this is basically a budget amendment, because we've already certified our budget and such. I guess how you can do that reach out into the rest of Pot County would be much desired, so, I know it's only I think it's just you, right? There's only one person so it takes some time to do that. It's been half a day driving out and coming back, so.
one benefit we have is we have a really good relationship with Paula and her team. So Shalimar's obviously an invaluable resource with her,
Sure.
you know, finger on the pulse of what's happening out in Pot County, and I can't overstate how important that is as well.
Yeah, and I guess we'd have to find, WIDA is funded at this point, so I think it's important we try to include them, you know, so long as we're funding them anyway. And, keep them in the loop too, because they're kind of working some of the similar efforts.
So are they doing any workforce stuff at Iowa Western then?
They are. They have their continuing education programs, the Career Acceleration Program. We're working directly with their Education to Go program. We do a lot with the STAR and the Economic Development, Mark Stanley and his, former team, now that he's retired. But those are people we work with a lot. We're working a lot with President Kinney directly now. He wants to be more involved in the economic development process. He's on our board now, so he's integrally involved in conversations as well as we look to grow things and work with them.
Do they get federal dollars for their doing the workforce development?
They get PACE and WTD funds, all kinds of fun things that, that's a long conversation if we want to get into those education funds from the feds.
That's to all of the community college Bain.
Yep.
Okay,
But they're an important partner of ours.
okay. So the motion was by Schultz, did you second that?
No, Lynn did, didn't he?
I will, I didn't.
Seconded?
Yes.
Can tentatively approve the funding pending
Yeah, I mean, obviously our attorneys need to look at the contract and everything.
Is there a contract?
there will be.
There will be, and we would anticipate, yeah, we'll look forward to talking with you guys about that.
Well, does the city have a contract too then?
So we're working with the mayor and Dick Wade on that, yes.
Okay. Any other discussion?
I appreciate you guys coming in. I think this is, I mean, this is a 100% worthwhile effort, so.
And thanks for your questions. It's good food for thought and things that we need to be doing too, so we appreciate it.
Well, you're right, Justin. I think we have a really good economic development team, trying to retain and bring business in. We get the workforce trained and bring extra workers here, and then the other leg is to make sure that we can provide affordable housing to.
Well, it's, the keys are, you know.
If there's no place to live, they're going to Omaha.
Right, but for years,
Or trainer.
it's been the same
Keep
battle.
County.
Same battle has been, you know, housing, transportation, childcare to, you know, sustain that workforce. You know, I mean,
And we're hoping that hopefully on that childcare piece, that early learning center will be instrumental in that too, as we have conversations with the school district about that. But obviously that's within CV proper.
yeah. Okay, any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
Mitch will get you that form too, if you don't mind, Matt,
Oh, yeah,
filled out along with the agreement.
can certainly do that. Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Appreciate it.
I'm gonna grab a bottle of water.
Pass me one too.
Yeah, anybody else want?
Water break.
Come right up into the front row, Michael.
I will do that. I brought friends.
Bring them always.
We have,
Switch rows.
it's gonna be hard to follow that, you know that. I don't, well, first of all, I don't know if I can talk that fast. And they had facts and facts and facts. So that was, hopefully I can keep up. Mitch has got a,
Yeah, I need Melvin to come back in and put my screen down, but
okay.
be good to go.
While we're doing that and getting somewhat prepared, I think everyone has this little handout that I wanted to make sure you had. It will follow a little bit on the screen, but it also will show some background. And I'll start by introducing and reintroducing myself.
Hold on just a second.
You want to wait for,
Now, I just put the screen down, we'll put it around.
There, Ellen Hatfield, City of Trainer, Michael Holden, Trainer City Administrator, discussion and decision for request for the
How's
City
the
of
creator?
Trainer
Come
for ARPA County funding for road infrastructure and trainer for future growth.
I have to drag it over there just to the screen. Just depends what displays. There you go, you're good.
let's see, we got Paula and Sean. Look at that. Boy, I tell you what, that's pretty good.
You're surrounded.
Yeah. You want to wait for Melvin, or do you want to? Well, let me start by just introducing and reintroducing myself so that the voice goes with it. I'm Mike Holton. I'm still the newbie. I'm still the new guy in the area. Loving every second of it in Trainer. I was hired and started in March of 2020. I have a background in community development. I have a master's in public administration and city administration, and all the things you talk about, it's all the housing development. We're gonna touch on a lot of those little pieces. I think the primary purpose of today is we know the American Rescue Plan Act, the ARPA funds are out there coming, are in, some are coming faster than others. There's designated uses for several streams. I also am on the executive board with the Iowa League of Cities. They can't let the new guy, they just gotta put him on right away, so I got brought into that, and I've been very active with the state of Iowa on these ARPA funds. Where they're going, what they're doing, and one of the key conditions of today is more or less just to get in front of you and talk about what we're doing. When you talk about that rural, sometimes it's just nice to see a picture of how things are developing. And when you start talking about housing, workforce development, workforce housing, and and how it fits, it's like one big umbrella. So when I look at Paula, and I think she's over here now.
So I could see your screen.
And when we talk about fiber optics, we signed on a letter as well for Western Iowa Network, and I think it's very important. Fiber optics very important and very dear to my heart, because you can't have workforce housing without having people able to work somewhat from their houses as well. I mean, we found in COVID that that's very true, and building subdivisions and having Jason James here to speak a little bit about what the success we've had in Trainer. It doesn't do any good when you have all these houses going up and you can't have people working with fiber optic going in, some of these needs you might have to have, some of the infrastructure things. And as you know, as everybody that comes here and talks to you, it's expensive. Everything that has a big price tag. One of the things that we're looking at, and you know, the mayor and I and the council and the city, is we also look at a wastewater treatment facility. We know that's coming down the pike. So, and that's a $4 to $5 million project that the city's undertaking in Trainer. And, you know, we'll talk a little bit about that, but that's not the, why we're here today. But just to let you know that nothing is really off the table. So if you want to go ahead and start, when you see the good picture.
That one?
Well, that's the good picture. You want to go from the beginning? Okay, when you hit this is a video. When you hit it, when you hit the, if you've actually got it in the, no, if you go back, this one right here, yeah, you might have to go from the slideshow, do the slideshow up above, and then just hit from the beginning. Yeah, now you can go, you hit your space bar once, back one. Okay, go forward, I guess, forward. Okay, well, if you want to do this, since this is the one I had, I must have put in the slides. I threw this in just because I arrived as the new guy. And I told you this at the last time I was at the County Board of Supervisors, how impressed I was with the county and your involvement during COVID. Because I arrived and started in March, and working with the council, as you know, we shut down. I mean, basically, everything just kind of went boom. And it's a scary time for a lot of people. For a new guy as an administrator, regardless of any background, where do I go? What do I do? So one of the things that happened right away is we knew we needed to have some of that support, and that support came out flowing from the county. I cannot tell you how wonderful it was. And when Tim showed up, and there's that great smiling face, I told you I had to do this. This is a plug for not only Justin and Sire, but you. He said if you weren't there, you were supposed to do it that day, right, Justin?
I was making it, so.
You were making it, so. This is very important. Of course, you see up above, that's Dan I have here and handing it out. So the county is always a partner, and I think COVID showed that more than anything with the vaccination. Walked in, Scott greeted me at the door. I think I had Lynn sitting there as I mean, all of you were just there, boom, boom, one step at a time, and actually working with Matt Wyatt was a pleasure too. So it was a well-done effort by the county, and I cannot tell you how much gratitude I have as far as being a city administrator, how that is. Go ahead and go to the next slide. Now, if you hit enter, if you have sound, that's great. You don't need it.
I got it here.
This is pretty fast, and next it's kind of going through. But I thought it was a well put together little video that kind of showed some of the highlights and some of the things that are important. Well, planning is important. It talks about not only the next generation, the youth, progress. Look at the progress there, Travis. Except during COVID.
How did you manage to get a picture of the palace without any cars parked there? There's always cars parked.
I know. So one of the organizations you brought to, we have, of course, Paula with Advanced Southwest Iowa. You can go ahead and go to the next slide. And the reasons we're here is, like I said, we know when we talk about the ARPA funds coming down, there's a lot of plans in the works for Trainer and have been for a while. When I arrived, probably the first goal I had as a city administrator was to look at the partners around the table and see what's going on. You've heard about the Vision Trainer stuff and the Vision Trainer group progress and some of the things that they've been doing. Slowed down a little bit in COVID, but it's really been speeding up lately. We knew things had to happen along the way, and Jason's here, James, to talk about, we're gonna talk about the development that occurred all during COVID, which was supposed to be a 5 to 6 year project that basically has filled itself in about a year. I mean, I am now working with the mayor and the council on these building permits, and there aren't many left. I think we got 3 or 4 or 5 that are sitting there out still to be done, and then that subdivision will be pretty well complete, which was an amazing year for all the things that were going on. You know what happened with construction costs, and it just went on. So as you can see by this picture, working with Vision Trainer, there's a loop, a road that goes from the subdivision on the west, that goes all the way around and looking to connect it to the highway. And that's very important for many, many reasons, not only for the needs of getting into that area, but also from the needs of connecting the subdivision and the northern part of Trainer to the highway to have other access points. We know that this is part of the plan all along. How we work with it, how we phase it out, how we do it in terms of funding is kind of why we're here today. So before I go too detailed into where we're going and what we want with the ARPA funds and what our pledges are and what we're going to be doing, I think that I wanted to show you and tell you and have Travis talk about Vision Trainer and basically where they're at this point in time, at this moment.
Thanks, Mike. Since I'm a back rower, I'll stand up here so you can hear me and see me. Travis Castle, from Living Trainer. On my side job, I do a little bit of insurance, kind of like you guys all have those full-time jobs as well. But a passion of ours really began with, 10 years ago, in the development of the Vision Trainer Group. Now, I'll give you a really quick snippet of this. I know you've heard a lot of information today, and I want to just give you a real quick view of what's going on. The thing that excites me about what Drew and Alicia are doing with the chamber, what Wynn is doing with the fiber optics, and what we're doing in Trainer is really exciting to us because we believe that when you look at a county, and if you pull yourself 30,000 feet above that county and you look at the entire county itself, you look at different pods of that county which creates our strength. And obviously, the Council Bluffs area is the metro, right? It's where everything happens, and a lot of those things are really important. But what we feel is really important as well is to not just develop the metro, but also to develop rural Potawatomi County. And I believe that the strength of, I've been an Iowa kid my whole life, grew up in Monona County, and I believe that the strength of a county is not just the metro areas, but it's also those rural areas. But I also understand and was born and raised to believe that it's the leadership within those rural areas which have to carry the ball for that. And so when we come to you guys and talk about ARPA funds and we talk about our project, we're not looking for handouts, we're looking for enhancements. And so what the Vision Trainer Group did was we started 10 years ago, and we looked at what can we do to help the leadership, Alan and the people in the city, Tom and Bryce that were leading our city, what can we do to help enhance our community, thus enhance rural Potawatomi County? So what we decided to do at that time was form a group that could create amenities that would be attractions to people, not just for Trainer, but Trainer in the surrounding area. So the Vision Trainer Group purchased 63 acres of land, which you see right here. Purchased 63 acres of land with the idea, and we surveyed everybody in the area with the idea was that we would create amenities in this area to make Trainer in the surrounding area a better place to raise a family, run a business, and live. And so when you talk about those housing complexes as well, this area was really important to the development of that as well. And so we started this 10 years ago. We're at it. I'm going to hand some items out here as well. You guys can share that. We started 10 years ago with this project, and to date, we've put $1.1 million worth of our own money and efforts into this project. And if you open up that handout, this is the insert is what you can see right here. That insert is the master plan of what this entire amenity will become for Trainer in the surrounding area. It'll encompass 2 soccer / flag football fields, a pinwheel of Little League softball, baseball fields. And then the other areas that's really exciting to us is what's going to become this East gathering place that'll allow for recreational family get-togethers and things of that nature. We've also then partnered with another group in town that wants to bring a splash pad, and we're just joined an agreement with them to sell 1 acre of land for a splash pad, a trailhead for Tristan's Trails, and also an all-inclusive park to be able to handle handicapped kids along with kids without handicaps for a park. And that'll become a large attraction for people throughout the entire county and actually pull from miles and miles around as well. So as you can see in this handout, in the lower left-hand corner, it talks about what we've raised to date. This is a handout that we're using as an engagement piece to go out and raise additional funds for this project. To date, we've raised $1.1 million for this project and to get it off the ground. As you can see on the right-hand page, this is a skeleton view of our project and what we have developed now with that 1.1 million. We've purchased the land. We've developed the middle third of it. So we have the middle third as a fully developed soccer field, and we're building the first Little League baseball field. We've got an 8-inch water line that we partnered with the city to bring in, and we helped, and then we extended that water line to fully irrigate the facility as well. We've got a gravel path down to a gravel parking lot in the facility as well at this point. And then recently we were awarded $175,000 from the Iowa West Foundation, which was part of a $500,000 project, and as you know, they fund 34% of it. So we have a $500,000 project, which is actually what we're calling phase 2 in this handout. And phase 2 in this handout is in total a $500,000 project. This handout is identifying part A of phase 2, which is the Little League field build out and the soccer flag football field equipment, and that's $175,000 of that $500,000. So we're doing a capital campaign to continue to push this property and get this project up and running. The other thing that really fits well with the county and beyond the Trainer borders is providing that subdivisions. And as you can see on the handout, I hand wrote in there that with Heartland Properties investment in the community, through the city's TIF financing assistance as well, they were able to put 29 home subdivision on the north half of our property. and we have another 8.4 acres for sale that would provide another 22 houses. So over this effort that's been going on for the last 10 years has put together over 51 houses available for the people of Potawatomi County as well. There's a lot of other opportunities that Mike in the city and Alan have talked about with what else can come from this facility. But what we're doing is we as a Vision Trainer Group, Scott Ralphs, myself, Doug Waring, and Norm Collins sit on the current board. We're putting pieces together to create a community gathering place that will impact way beyond just the trainer borders. We want to provide a facility that kids from Oakland, kids from Carson, kids from Underwood, and all the surrounding areas can come and partake in activities in this area, and that'll provide that family gathering place for this area. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Mike and I'll answer any questions that you have, but that road is a really important piece to the further progress of this piece.
So that road that we're talking about is the connection point where we're at now. And one of the concepts and ideas that we've had at least since my arrival, like you heard, this has been going on for several years, is to try to catalyze and get some of the ball rolling in trying to make some of this work. One of the things that we went right into was that water extension, so that they would have water into that area. And that came in March and April of when we arrived, and we signed that agreement with the city, which I think has been a favorable thing to begin. And if you haven't been up there, I encourage you to come off the highway. You'll see the sign that says T. There's a gravel driveway. Just drive on in there. Drive down in the bottom, and you can see the soccer fields and the baseball fields. And as the progress is going, we feel this is important. The other thing that you look at that road and the connection is up into the subdivision, and you talked about housing. And housing is very important, I think, for all of us. We know how there's a shortage of it, but you can't look at housing as a standalone, and you have to look at it as a complete package of not only your individual single-family homes, which Jason James in this project, which I'm going to ask Jason to speak on in just a second, but you also have to look at when you look at TIF financing, and they call it a clawback. And the clawback is what the money comes back into the city for other uses. And that's in housing development. And I'm already looking at ways to use for workforce housing development. So it was very appropriate they're talking about workforce, because I'm trying to prepare for that eventuality. And that's not your single family dwellings. That's how do you look at these duplexes? How do you look at these apartments? Where does it fit? How does it fit into the land scheme of not only Trainer, but Potawatomi County? So when you say, where are they gonna go? Travis jokingly said, Trainer.
I wasn't joking.
Yes, I'm with him. No, I'm with him, because that's one of the reasons, and that's the exciting part, that when I came into Trainer, why did I come into this area? Why did I wanna be here? I see this, I see the opportunity. I love the Carsons, I love the Underwoods, as a rural person. So Jason, if you wouldn't mind just taking a second before I go on to the slide, and just, would you just tell the county your thoughts in this process and the benefit as far as the success and what made it a success? That probably is more important coming from you than it is. I see it every day, but you might see it from a developer standpoint and what the future could do if we continue in that path.
Sure. Thank you. Well, I can sit down, that's okay, right, guys? A few years back, we had a piece of property for sale that Vision Trainer owned, and tried to market it for quite a while and just wasn't selling. And I went to my partner and said, what do you think of trying something out in Trainer? And he wasn't real excited. It was kind of out of our wheelhouse. We hadn't done something like that. And finally kind of convinced him to give me a shot and let me try it out there. And when we did it, we went to the city who hadn't done anything quite like this, hadn't did a TIF like this, and they were wonderful to work with. We kind of learned the process together, and we platted out, worked with HDM and platted out 29 lots and 29 homes there. And when we did it, we estimated it would take 3 to 5 years, just based on the previous subdivision that had taken, about 10 years. We felt like, 3 to 5, we could do better than that. And so we put those for sale. It would have been last June about a year ago, a little before that. And we estimated we'd add 8 to 9 million in tax base in Trainer when we were done, and that's how we modeled our TIF. And we were a little bit conservative there, and when we did that, part of it was the market, the market's obviously been good. We sold all those lots in 6 months, and today I estimate we're gonna exceed 10 million in tax base. And to give you an idea of that, 10 million in tax base is like 14% of the whole assessed value of Trainer. If you take all the assessed value on the books, using a little bit older numbers from 2018, 19, it's a 7% increase in housing for the city. So it's more than you think. When you start talking percentages, it's pretty moving numbers, And it's been a success. Part of that reason was they allowed us to do the TIF, and we tried to honor our word on that. When we did it, we said we would put the lots at affordable prices. And I'm not lying, we had the temptation, to up the prices on the lots, but we said we'd keep them under 50,000, and we did. We kept them between 45 and 49,500. And that was part of that success. I believe we didn't get greedy. We kept them priced right, got the lots sold, did not make a lot on the lots. All the money was going to be made on the TIF. And it worked well. I think it's great. I estimated if every one of those houses averaged 1.5 kids, you're going to add 45 kids to the community. And that helps the school and just moves people. Some of those people come from out of areas. Some of them moved up to better homes. And I think it was a real success, and it was a good experience. It's been a good experience. I like to think we worked well with the city and had a good relationship and had open communication. And it was just a good deal. I think the more you can do of this, I think a road opens up other land where maybe investors would come in. Vision Trainer has the piece there on the west. That's a nice piece, and somebody will, I'm sure, do something there, hopefully, which if you could add another 22 houses again, I just think it's great for the city. And I look at Trainer almost as like the Elkhorn of Omaha, It's on the edge. That's the growth area. Anything we can do to make it better and more attractive, I think it gives people an alternative option to live in the county, and it's an easy commute to Omaha and Council Bluffs, and I think it's a great place to invest money. So I guess I'd like to publicly say Mike and Alan, how great they were to work with, and would love to do something with them again sometime. So, thank you.
I like the way he segued. I spent 10 to 15 years of my political career, or I shouldn't say political, since that's you guys, the apolitical career in Nebraska. So when he mentioned Elkhorn, and that'll go into this next slide, is the purpose. It's in my background as a public administration is in zoning and planning. So when I talk with Matt Wyant, I understand. Sometimes you talk with people that have that same language. We have that same language, and sometimes that gets a little scary. Go ahead. One of the things I wanted to bring up very clearly is we're coming to you talking about ARPA funds. ARPA is COVID-related, federal-related, state-related, now county-related, and fairly recent. This discussion that we're having right now is kind of giving you the background. We were doing this. This isn't something that was COVID-related. This is ongoing process that was pre-COVID. So, and when I say that, I think it's important because one of the items with ARPA funds, and it's very clear in the way the mandates have come down from all levels, is they're looking to your guidance to those units, they call them, governmental units, that are ready to go, that are looking for that kind of assistance. There are plenty of those communities out there that say, wow, we're going to get ARPA funds, and we're going to take those ARPA funds, and we got to figure out something to do with them. There's a lot of those communities in Iowa that are trying to figure out, what are we going to do with the money? Part of this is we're trying to come up with a plan ahead of that, way before ARPA, and now how do we use those ARPA funds, not only where we're coming to you for, but also from the city. Because the cities will be getting some of those rescue funds as well. but they have a different use. They have different ways that they sit there and tell us we can and cannot use it. Mid-American, I contacted them almost immediately. This entrance, as you see, off of Highway 92, so we've got them working with us currently to move some poles, take some things, and this isn't a process that happens overnight. You know, Mid-American's gonna have, you move 2 poles, you're gonna have to move 6 more all along. So they're working with us right now, and they've been working for the last 6 to 8 months to do it as we speak. So we're going forward with the project. We're just looking, like I said, for partnership from you and with the ARPA funds to help us continue what we're trying to do. Okay, next slide. This kind of shows you a rudimentary drawing and how we looked at the original entrance coming off the highway into the Vision Trainer ground. Because we have to look at this in phases, because this is a very costly endeavor. And I've got Vision Trainer worked with HGM Engineering, and I've been working with HGM Engineering as well. But we also worked with Murr Engineering out of Fort Dodge. So some of the preliminary costs, just even the entrance, is roughly $250,000. So you can see that the cost on this can get pretty substantial. Go ahead and go to the next one. One of the things we talked about, Jason alluded to it. I'll talk with Dan Roberts here and have him say something. Vision Trainer alluded to it. When I came in, the one thing I knew, if we talked about Elkhorn, and if you follow those stories and you know those stories, there's many things that they did wrong. And what they did wrong is trying to take some of these communities without planning. And part of the thing, when I came in, I talked with the mayor, with Alan, and said, you know, really, we need to set up a plan to drive the development so that not say anything that Jason would do wrong, but we can work together that the developer's not telling you what's happening. The city and the developer can work together. So we hired Altec Engineering to take a look at a futuristic plan that we actually put in and codified into the city resolutions and that if we ever go forward, to look back and use this as a kind of a blueprint. So this is the 4th concept that came out of it, and it's basically looking at what Trainer would look like when we develop the entire town. And you can see there's the Vision Trainer grounds. That road is already in there, but you see all the other roads that are now being developed to the east, to the south and southeast, and then over here, actually closer, this is more of on the west side, southwest side, kind of an industrial, to make sure that that growth can be monitored and that, you know, the city also can provide that infrastructure correctly. Go ahead and go on to the next one now. So there's a look, again, at the same plot of land and kind of filling in some of the area. But the thing to look here, besides that road we're talking about, is the next piece of growth would be to the north and northeast. And you can see some of that is very important in the housing development side of things when it comes to Trainer and how it could look with some of that workforce housing as well. I mean, we're not talking just individual single-family homes, which, as Jason said, and I did put the pencil to it with the permits, with the HUD and doing some things in that. We've already put in $9.8 million in less than a year of direct construction costs, and that'll exponentially grow with everything else. Okay. Here's a look at a different angle. This is that piece of land that we were talking at the bottom. That's a platted, let me rephrase that. It is a potential platted area. The Vision Trainer is looking to sell that ground. So we're looking at that from anywhere from 19 to 22 homes. And that's not something that's on, pie in the sky. That's looking at right now, currently, what we want to do.
Half-acre lots or something, is that what you're looking at on those?
No, a little smaller than that. Your bulk zoning allows for 8,000 square feet. That's a little small for my taste, and I'm finding out as you put together jigsaw puzzles, as we're doing that, sometimes when you get into that last jigsaw puzzle, 8,000 square feet, so it's less than a half acre, but I'd like to see, no matter what, that's why I said 19 to 22 homes. When we plat, we work with the city, we may have to increase some of the lots, but nevertheless, 10,000 square feet. Some of those ones on the bottom, though, would be a bit nicer. Go ahead, okay. Once again, looking at LTIG, I said, put some homes on it to take a look. And if you look to the, it would be to the left-hand side, that's the current Heartland subdivision. And this would be an extension. And there, once again, there's that road proposed, okay. What houses would look like if we developed to the east. And you can see there's a little bit of, and there's a topographical open space, but if you get a chance to go in there, you'll know that's probably not very buildable right there in the middle. But green space isn't a bad thing either.
Like, what kind of price point are you targeting for these homes, you think? I mean, do you have one in mind, or?
Jason, when we put in the subdivision, and certainly Jason, feel free because of the covenants that were put in there, but originally started at the single-family homes in that Heartland at 250,000 or greater. That was the first construction, I think, surpassed that because of the COVID and the construction costs. We're seeing most of those right now, roughly 300 to 350, and some of those are even greater, but 250 was the minimum on that particular subdivision. Some of the housing and some of the TIF clawback that I'm calling it, that the city would work with, would probably look at affordable housing. What that looks like, what affordable housing actually means in this day and age is changing rapidly. So affordable housing, when they used to say 100 grand, may not even be there anymore.
Probably 250.
It's probably 250.
So, I guess the next question I would have is, are any of these subject to change as far as, let's call it the rectangles you got up there between each little neighborhood? I mean, is it possible that you do bigger homes, bigger lots, things like that, or is this really what you want to target?
This is the target, but this is all going to be subject to each plat the developer comes in, because I certainly do see some of those lots expanding to maybe the half-acre style. And I actually told the engineer, Oltec, to do it like this, to see the maximum number we could get, because he asked this very same question, Justin. He said, what do you want to see if you would go half-acre lots or something like that? I said, not now.
Sure.
What size lots were yours, Jason?
Most of the lots were right similar to a Briarwood-sized lot. We tried to make them where they would almost all take 3-car garages. I'd make one comment on lot size. It's easy to, it's sexy to say that, big lots, but from a city standpoint, long-term, and from a tax base standpoint, higher density is better. That street to maintain in front of those middle lots there, if you look in comparison to the real lots where their houses are much bigger than a normal lot. When you look at those deep ones, those lots are big lots. I mean, an 8 or 10,000 square foot lot, you have the bent trees, I feel like, where they're gonna get an acre and so on, but once you get much bigger than 8 or 10,000 square foot, it's just a lot of extra mowing. I mean, I think that.
I won't have time to mow, they'll be playing ball.
I mean, so probably some in between of what we did and, what you guys are thinking, but half-acre lots, that's a big lot, it's 20-some thousand square foot. That's half a football field with the end zones,
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I'm asking these questions because you look at like Story County and you look what's going on just north of Ankeny, in between there, and this looks very similar to me, what they got going on, but they've also have, so you got your denser houses and you got your bigger lots, but they also have like your apartment complexes and townhomes, things like that kind of nest into these little pods, I guess.
And it's actually one of those things, Justin, I'm looking at now to redo some of that zoning code, because some of these are just cookie cutter templates, and you see they got R1 and R2, and that's it. But you can take some of those, and Council Bluffs does, take your R1, R2, R3, R4, R5, and take those density factors. And if I had my way as a planner, 10,000 square feet is my ideal size. 8,000 can push those three-car garages and things to the limit. 10,000 makes it work easier. As you get bigger, Jason said, sometimes that can be an issue. Before I go any further, though, I did want to say, as you see the density, just you guys are segueing into everything that I just one step at it, and it's great. I love that. If you look at the density of the houses and what's currently built, what's being proposed, this road, also from a county standpoint and a city standpoint, there's a necessity, because one of the things we look at is how do we get an access point from the north to the south, as well as from an emergency standpoint. And so that's why I asked Dan if he'd come as the chief here at the fire department for trainer to kind of say what his thoughts were, because we've talked, and he said why he thinks, even something that I wouldn't be thinking of, why it's so much easier to sell or show you why we need this.
Thank you. I serve as the chief and trainer, but excuse the shirt today. I work here in Council Bluffs as well. The dog's out in the truck. I can bring him in after the meeting if you'd like to see him. But just one of the things I want to mention is that trainer, unfortunately, the way it was originally built, there's just no way to really get around it without going farther out. You know, we have a major intersection in Trainer, which is Highway 92 and 300th Street, you know, leading up to Highway 6. We have accidents there. You have an accident that shuts down that intersection, we've literally locked up 92. There's no way to get around it in Trainer. I mean, we've got one street to the south that you can use to get around it, kind of, but it doesn't go beyond 300th Street to the west. So adding this road in is huge, because otherwise we have to back people up to either 310th, go north up to Dogwood. You're about 3 to 4 miles out of the way that way. If you're gonna send them all the way to Highway 6, we gotta go all the way back to 340th Street to send them north. So this does give us a bypass around a major intersection in Trainer. It gives us a different perspective. I work also as a law enforcement officer for the city, and so you think about some different things. When you're responding to emergencies, say in that new subdivision up there, having different routes to get there is great. If you're talking about a hazmat incident, we may need to come in from a different direction because of weather changes. Law enforcement may want to come in from a different direction because of a burglary or something in progress, that they want to have a different way in, a different approach to those neighborhoods. So having different access routes is great from a first responder standpoint. Having one ways around a city and no streets to go around it is kind of hard. It makes it difficult to traverse the city when there's blockages in the way. So that was kind of the thing that Michael asked me to step up and talk about to you guys, that the importance of adding a road like this, especially with the new subdivisions that they're putting in, it's a significant factor for emergency response.
And I'll try to wrap more of this up and then kind of go back to that. But now that you've kind of gotten the background of what we're doing and why we're doing it and going forward, the road really is, at least from my viewpoint, I think the cities, from the emergency, from developing, is like a linchpin. I mean, it's really a cog that we really are trying to build around. And I think it's very important that as we talk about this, that you see it as kind of a connection point. Go ahead, another view looking from that development side from the east, looking west. And then once again, there's that kind of road development there. Go ahead. Next one. Populating it. I don't know about you, but when I looked at this, the first thing I told the the engineer that was doing this, he was out of Colorado, nice guy. I said, they look really bland. There's no trees. And I said, well, there's no trees. That's not real. And you know what he told me? He says, when you build a house, is there ever a tree on it when that house first goes up? He says, that's what it would look like if houses went up overnight. He says, there would be no trees. So I got to give it to an engineer. So we come from different worlds, but he understood that. So go ahead. Real quickly, just take a look. This is some of the development, some of the housing. This is going on. It's like a small city every day when I go back there within a city. There's probably 50 to 100 people in construction, and they're all working, it's a little congested up there, to be quite honest, and that, so we have to kind of watch it when you're going back and forth, because not only do you got the construction workers, but you got the gawkers, the ones that want to take a look what's going on. Go ahead. Okay, go ahead. Yep, and I think that basically wraps it down. Now, basically, is trying to look at this and wrap it up. We want to come to you early in the process to look at the ARPA funds as well as other funds. We're certainly not coming to you for the whole thing. The city wants to invest their portion of it as well. And we're also looking to the city's grant. And we've already put on, you're working with a coalition with, Paula is back here. Sean is on it. I talked with Michelle just the other day. We were one of the first interviews on that list, and this is our wish. I mean, this is where we're going forward with it. The money that goes to the NEUs, the non-entitlement units, so the non-entitlement units like Trainer cannot be used for road infrastructure. What you can do is be creative. And I've had some of this conversation at the state level as well. What we are proposing to do is to take a look at the funds that we get, which is roughly 145 to 150,000. I just got an email this morning that says the state still can't make up their mind on some of it's changing. I mean, the dollars that go to the cities, they tell you one day what you're gonna get, now it's changing slightly, just even as of this morning. Let's just say 150,000. The water sewer infrastructure has to go in along with this road. We know that. So the council and the mayor, we've had this discussion, pledging that money into this project. Cost of the road, I've had 2 engineers take a look at it. Scott's back here, retired. I don't know how that happens. I won't be able to retire till the day I die, and it'll be lunch. They'll let me off for my funeral. With that being said, HGM came up with a figure on what would be cost on curb, gutter, street, and the approximate length, 31 foot wide, which is the proposal all along. That's a $1.1 million just on the road. Water and sewer infrastructure and some of that are right at 150,000. The reason I'm verbally telling you this is an hour ago, I had the other engineer, Murr, from Fort Dodge, gave me figures, because this is always evolving, and they look at it as a 1.1 million. So we know this project is going to be between 1.1 to 1.5 million total. We're going to go to the city's grant. We're going to use every dollar we can pledge and try to keep in with the water and sewer infrastructure, which is going to be roughly 150,000 to 200,000 at the most, because we've got some of that built in. We know we have to be a little cautious because the wastewater treatment facilities, you can't look at these as just a single standalone road with the housing development going in. You got to have water, you got to have sewer, and that increased needs, we know we're looking at that too. And that's something that we've been working on for since I've arrived, and that we know that's a $5 million wastewater treatment facility. We're not coming to you with that at all. We're looking to the county to say, as a partner, what kind of support with the ARPA funds being early, coming to you as we are, hopefully the first one in line, to say with the ARPA funds to go out into the county to partner with. You know, what would that look like? I actually asked the question, how much? You could ask that same question, how much? I was embarrassed. I don't know what. I could ask you for the million, the 1.1 million. We need all the money we can get. Vision Trainer will tell you that. I don't know if they got $1 million sitting around either. They're working with the ball fields and stuff like that. So we're looking to whatever case scenario that might look like that you have as you develop your thinking into spreading that money out. And then go from there. Because there's going to be other funds that I'm going to apply for, and I'm going to tell you right now, I will. Because that's just, you know, what we're doing as we go along. So, but those are the 2 figures I've gotten, very crude, and they're always changing. Anywhere, I'm calling it, and I said right from the very beginning, I had an idea on this too, Jason. I was telling you, they said, well, how much do you think this road's going to cost? I said, well, just in, my background and trying to think of that, I think I'm gonna call it my $1 million baby. Well, it is, it's gonna be $1 million. It's gonna be $1 million plus, so. Questions, you have everybody here, I'll sit down, you don't need to ask me anymore, but I can, gladly answer whatever I can, but Alan's here, Dan, Jason, Vision Trainer Group, whatever you think.
I have a bunch, you wanna go first?
Well, I wanna ask Mitch, can you pull up that, do you have it, do you have your laptop? Can you pull up that spreadsheet that we went over, the capital plan, and go to the last tab?
How long is the road?
2,200 feet.
Yep.
Pardon?
So as the engineer,
2,200 feet.
2,200 feet.
What's left to be built. I think part of the road was built with Jason's project.
Is yours a cul-de-sac then?
And we put in, both our roads were through roads, and then we also extended the Stevens Ridge to the end of our property. So, and then it's going in the city's name, getting, actually, we're working on that right now because it needs to go to the city's in their name, but the road is to the edge of the property. So as part of our project, it did get that road farther. They made a lot of progress, but.
The first 600 feet or
Yeah.
something, or I don't know how long
Yeah.
it was.
And the city's grant did assist us with that, and we got that money back, and that was a project that just went in. That street was fully finished April of 2020. So, it's a little over a year old.
And they got it done pretty reasonable because as part of our cost, we graded all their site. It was kind of our deal that we would grade all their site as part of our deal. And it worked out.
Grant was just for 600 feet or whatever?
Yeah, for whatever that portion was, and basically, it was before my arrival, but I'll speak on the council on that. There was a need, an insistence to make sure that there was a connection that came down to Highway 6 and come down that way off to, what is that, 330 or whatever, 300, that runs.
So I asked Mitch to pull this up, because I wanted you guys to see, we talked about all the money we have, so we went over what we have for bonds, what we have for, fund balance, what we have for ARPA money, stuff like that. We came up with different lists, so along the bottom of you can see all the different tabs there, and we kind of allocated what our plan was. This last tab, we kind of jokingly call it the super wish list. But what's unique about it is that it's actually within our budget, it's still affordable. And so while we joke about these things, these are things that we would like to see done and do. So I think some of what you're asking, not necessarily your road yet, but especially with what's going with your Indeed.
Vision Trainer.
Yeah. I think we may be able to have some honest partnerships with this. But I just wanted you to see that we are thinking this way too. I don't know what dollar amount we should, it's tough to say because we talk to you and then a week from now, Underwood, Carter Lake, and they're all gonna show up and they're all gonna start asking similar questions. And so we have to be very careful what we commit to, obviously, but,
Well, in all fairness, Justin, I'm saying, as a rural advocate, as you know, I told you the last time I was here, they should. If Carson and Underwood aren't here, then they're somehow missing out, and I would be the first to say, get going, because I know Carson has some downtown stuff, needs that they want to kind of finish up into, and, so as a rural Potawatomi County advocate, I just want you to know that we are only first in line because this is something that we have ready to go on the plate and that, we're very serious about, and not just a dreamland.
We're not gonna leave out those other towns, I mean.
No.
Exactly.
With Paula and Golden Hills RC&D and the Iowa West Foundation, that's not gonna happen.
Yeah, and I agree.
So I do have, are you done?
well, you asked all the questions first last time, so I'm gonna ask two.
Okay.
So the first one I have is just the ball fields. What's your long-term maintenance plan on that? Is that gonna be handed over to the city, or is that?
Yeah, right now, we are in the process of creating a structure very similar to the TRA, and Trainer is an organization that's ran by a board. That board facilitates golf tournaments, golf leagues, golf play, clubhouse. We're looking at creating another structure and entity. The facility is called the T, And the T is looking at this winter, we're actually in conversations with a small group of stakeholders, creating a board that would facilitate the operations and sustainability of the project from that standpoint. We're also talking within that, potentially some private-public partnerships to say, how do we hire someone for this, a position that could help manage and maintain that? So all those things are in the works to not only build it, but sustain it also.
Okay, thank you. Second question I had, I guess just goes, when all this is built, someday, hopefully soon.
Hopefully.
What's your law enforcement plan? Cause I see, right now, we're covering it through, with the county, and we have an agreement, and we're, sending deputies out there for so many hours per day or whatever. When you get all this in there, I mean, is the thought process that we're just gonna up the county side of this, or are we hoping that city is gonna start having their own law enforcement? Cause I don't know that we can handle this, is what I'm getting.
I got two answers for that, and there's good, because it's fine, I do think about these things. I shouldn't, I should just go to bed, but I don't know why. But I always think about the extraneous things that are out there, like law enforcement, even fire department, fire safety and fire rescue. I've been on both sides. I've been a city manager having to deal with law enforcement, and now I'm working with Pot County as a contractual arrangement. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I love it. I love having Pot County, and you can understand that. With this addition, that has to be looked at and revisited, even if it's some type of a hybrid contractual relationship with the county, and there might be some individual needs if someone is there within the city, somehow that, and I've seen these done before, to go to a full-fledged, and reverse that to go to a city, depending on the size. And we talked about size of population. We are looking at wastewater treatment facility for the city of Trainer, 25 years out at 3,500 people. You know as well as I do that Trainer is 1,000 people. Well, just right at that cusp, a little under, a little over, depending on how you look at it. 3,500 is 3 times. You're gonna be looking, that has to be addressed.
I will pitch that our support will have some strings tied in that regard, just because it's a pretty sweet deal for all the communities right now with what we do with the deputies, sending them out there. We lose money. I mean, it's not a loss. I mean, obviously we're doing law enforcement, but I think what it takes to outfit a deputy and have them out there and patrol these areas, it's a cost.
It's a bargain.
It's a huge bargain for the cities. So I guess.
You're not gonna get me to argue.
No. I'm gonna try to tie some strings.
But all that is a pretty long-range plan. I mean, we're talking years and years out before anything looked like that.
But I mean, if you put 30 homes in this year and then 30 next year, 30 next, you start chomping away at it. Now it's like, wait a minute, that one agreement we had that we only charge you 2.5% more, 3% more this year, and we're losing like 10% a year on our end.
I think you guys would change your agreement, and we would have to pick up the other end.
I'm not trying to go to negative town.
I
think this project is phenomenal.
Just
honestly.
readjust expenses as the population increases.
I'm done. You can ask all your questions.
All right, Travis.
Yeah.
Show me where the city limits of Trainer is in regards to this plan.
I have to give that to Mike or
What
someone.
was the question?
The city
I'm sorry.
limits?
City limits.
Okay. What are you looking at, the northern?
Yeah.
I'm actually looking at a.
Right around this proposed
Oh,
road.
yeah. Well, yeah, this whole proposed road is within city limits. When we talk about the subdivision that was built, and Jason knows this too, because the northern boundary of his, we call it Augusta Drive, up here, right here. This is a fictional road right here. The blue is proposed if we had to go into this annexation type, the Elkhorn Elkhorn look. But this Augusta Drive is the northernmost boundary, and I'm actually looking at a piece for voluntary annexation, 10 feet, right now.
So this isn't private property?
This
Private property.
is all Vision Trainer grounds, and it is private property. We've had the discussion, and part of that, and I apologize, and the mayor will get, and remind me of this too, is part of the Vision Trainer kickback, and that we had this discussion the other day, was this will be given up and deeded over. So there's a value of 4 acres roughly to the city. So that would become, city ground. And we're actually looking at that as we progress. Jason knows because we did the deed after the fact, and we're actually trying to do this now, before the fact, and trying to make sure that that ground is in city name and city ground. And that's roughly at 4 acres, 40,000, that's 160,000 contribution back from the Vision Trainer Group to the city.
Okay, Jason, you spoke a little bit about the TIF. What percentage is that?
We got a TIF, when you say percentage, we're getting about 80, Trainer's LMI, low to moderate income, holdback was around 21%, if I remember right.
Yeah, you're right on.
Minus the physical plant, like some of the other things, we ended up with about 78% or something.
So it's, yeah. How long is it?
That is a 12-year TIF. I do believe we will probably get it done sooner because it got developed so quick.
What, and you probably wouldn't have anything to do with this LMI spending, are you gonna be able to do that in Trainer?
That is right now in the process of being developed.
There isn't any lower moderate income in Trainer.
Well, what you do, but it's funny you mention that. You don't look at the LMI, because the LMI funds that come back, and this is what I call that clawback on TIF financing, is if you don't necessarily have that LMI, and it's funny you mention that, because Trainer is unique to me, because I'm used to seeing that low to moderate income areas. So, in especially what they call in Nebraska, it was called blighted areas. Here, it's called urban renewal in Iowa. But what you can do with that LMI, and what I'm looking at, is workforce housing is a legitimate LMI expense. Your affordable housing, depending on what that definition is, and that's what we were just talking about earlier, is a use for it. And another one is housing rehab. So there are some houses in Trainer in some of the older areas that would be eligible on some of those housing rehab programs, which I'm very intimately, my wife has been working 20-some years with housing rehab programs, so very.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I think it has a lot to do with your income level as well, so. Paula, last question. We're in the process right now of working with all the small towns on these fundings and getting grants, right? Where are we at with that?
So, Golden Hills RC&D, Michelle and her staff they're finishing their final interviews with city clerks and mayors, capturing all of the data that was collected during those interviews. We did an RFQ for our consultant that we're going to be working with to work directly with the cities regarding potential state and federal funding. And that decision is probably going to be made this week on who we're going to hire. And then once the consultant is on board, then we will go through each of the city spreadsheets that we have and really prioritize the projects. And we just got a draft of the spreadsheets, actually yesterday, so we'll be able to look at some preliminary info.
What's your levy? What are you levying?
As far as cents,
Yeah.
10.1, does that sound right?
No,
No,
I think it's around 28,
I was gonna say 20.
then maybe 30 after, it's either 33 or
That's
20.
schools?
It's with everything.
It's with everything, okay.
Okay, with everything it's 30, you think?
It was either, I'm trying to think of 20, it was what we ended up with, it was 33, I can look it up real quick.
Oh, how far away are we from actually submitting grants for a project like this?
So Michelle's team has through August 31st to complete their phase 1 of the project. And then it'll be turned over to our staff on September 1st. So we're a couple months out from being able to actually.
How far out do you think, let's just say they submitted a grant and it was approved, how far out are we from receiving any funding for that?
Even notification of funding could be months and months out.
What's your timeframe?
We're first at the table, but Paul is right. I mean, it could be months and months. We would like to see this be a project that's not put on a back burner, but we also are anticipating, nothing's gonna be done in 2021. You know, we're looking at 2022 for even the entrance to Zion Drive to go in.
Is that possible, Paula? Who's gonna come up with the parameters for participation from the county?
We will be bringing all of the vetted projects to the county for review before we would move forward. So we're gonna prioritize all of the projects, and I have not looked at everything yet, so I can't tell you how many projects each community has, but we will work with the consultant to prioritize. And I would assume this project is probably one of the top priorities you gave Michelle, is that correct?
Yeah, I know Michelle's, I mean, when she first started the, your directive to get out there with the group and that, she stopped in Trainer immediately, because she knew I had this, like this, immediately, at the top of my head, so. We did that about, when did you start this, about a month ago? 3 weeks, a month ago?
About 5 weeks ago.
It just, I think it's good that we know that there's a project out there that you're ready to move forward with. I think ownership could be part of a problem, maybe. But, you know, I think this board has to figure out, what do we want to fund? Do we want to fund roads? Do we want to fund water? How much of a commitment would Potawatomi County make to all of the communities, not just Trainer, but I'm talking about all of them, because they're all gonna come. I hope they all come. And, you know, the grant process is gonna, and Iowa West Foundation, where do they come into? I think part of this project was, that the Iowa West Foundation would provide some infrastructure funding for that too.
Correct.
So, I appreciate your presentation thoroughly, but it's good to know that you have something out there that you're working with.
Yeah, and I think we all understand, and I think, when would we have that meeting, Paula, or Shauna, you were there too, I mean, when was that, a couple weeks ago? That we had the cities, Zoom meeting, that we had that, in talking just with Iowa West and just what you're talking about, but we also know it's very important to get in front of you.
I saw some numbers, and I don't even know if they're still accurate or not anymore, but some of the costs in the project included sidewalks and stop signs, and, you know, I don't think, just personally, Potawatomi County is gonna get into putting in sidewalks. You know, that kind of thing. You know, where do we draw the line? I mean, do we pay for your stop signs and your sidewalks? Then are we sidewalking Crescent? I mean, think about it. You know, I mean, if you're looking at infrastructure, I think this board member would be focused on that. And want to know if we're going to tip these projects, how far is it before Potawatomi County gets any additional tax revenue from it as far as the tip goes. But I also know that if we only work on today, tomorrow we're gonna be broke. So we have to look forward too.
I think what would be super helpful is if we can get some rough cost sheets to Mitch, and then that way he keeps those in front of us, so as we do our budgeting process, we have that stuff in front of us.
If I hear you correctly, would you like to, when I talk with the engineers, the two engineers, we did the sidewalk and street just because that's how I'm looking at the entire project. Would you like just the street cost broke out?
What's better, in my opinion, is you work with Slow Hills RC&D and Advanced Southwest Iowa, put the grant together, and then you know, when you have your actual cost for the grant, show us what your costs are, take a look at it. I mean, city participation, Iowa West Foundation, Potawatomi County, I think with a combination of the three, we could probably get some of it done. I'm not saying the Potawatomi County is gonna be a third player in it, but I think get the grant together and see where we're at.
Well, we don't, and I think you wanna break those pieces out though, to be honest with you, Michael, just because we don't know, if there's gonna be another bucket of money, infrastructure money, what that looks like, whether the state receives it, and divvies it out to the county, or they gonna divvy it out to cities. I mean, the state's still sitting on a bunch of money, you know, so, we're gonna have to create some criteria, and then, you know, there's gonna be, somebody's gonna always be first, and then, like you said, you were the first one here, but you may not, you may end up being the first project, you may end up being the second one, you know, I mean, we're gonna have to figure that piece out too.
Well, I think with the amount of dollars you have, you could probably have multiple requests funded first.
Right,
They're all similar.
potentially.
But is.
But we have infrastructure
Of our own, right.
of our own without, you know, I mean, you guys, I mean, you're well aware of local control, so it's not somewhat unusual for us to come in and say, well, we're gonna put a street in your town and you're gonna take it. And you say, well, no, you're not gonna put a street in our town, we don't want you, you know?
So are streets ARPA eligible? Pavement?
If
But it's just the water and
This is a
sewer.
completely separate,
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
completely
All right.
separate pile of money.
All right.
that's why we're coming.
Okay.
Paula, would you consider Vision Iowa similar to the Industrial Foundation?
There's a Vision Iowa session going on right now that I missed to hear this, so.
No, the Vision Trainer Group.
Oh, this vision, no, I would, they're to me more the community development. To me, it's more community development and quality of life kind of placemaking pieces. I mean, this is a great concept versus what the Industrial Foundation does with, you know, developing their industrial tracts.
Well, thanks for the information. I think that everything should move along in your efforts with Advanced Southwest Iowa and Golden Hills RC&D.
Well, I mean, they're still pursuing other monies, also, and, the land piece that was listed for sale, that 8.4 acres? Is that correct?
Yeah, it's Vision
That
Trainer
goes-
Group's, that's
that
Vision
goes-
Trainer Group's property.
That goes to you?
It's listed, yep.
Okay.
We would use, part of
Travis,
that money would
I
be,
shouldn't say it goes to Travis, but it goes to the.
yeah, nothing's going to Travis, but, or Scott, or Doug, or.
But, so that goes into the bucket.
Yeah, that, part of that money will, from the proceeds from the sale of that land, will also go to get the rest of our property on the west side to grade, which would be, there'll be this soccer field, these two Little League fields, would, part of the money from the sale of this will go to get that to grade as well. There'll be a grading agreement between us and the developer to get that done, so it won't be straight profit from that standpoint.
Are you looking at that, Jason?
Yeah, we looked at it. Right now, it's a little rich for our blood, to be honest with you. But it's, I think they have it at 40-some thousand an acre or something, and we're more in the market of around 30 with the other piece we bought more
35.
reasonable. Is that what?
No, 38? I'm negotiating now.
No, so, but, you know, maybe someone, I told them, you know, if it was apartments, you could afford to pay that, but, you know, you just, they're just, you know, we're a for-profit business, and again, we'd want to keep our lots reasonable. So, I mean, because I think all, these TIFs are great if you build the stuff. But as soon as the market changes and you're sitting on a lot and you just spent millions of dollars and now you don't have the tax base, you don't get your money. And we got lucky on the first one with the market and everything, and I don't wanna completely, try to predict that it's gonna happen the same way on another one, So,
And that property's been on the market for a couple months. So
yeah, pretty new on the market.
We're new on the market, we're gonna play it out. And see
Well, you haven't had it for sale then.
No, it's just, we got our broker's opinion of value about 2 months ago.
Were you always planning on selling it, or was it supposed to be part of the park?
We had a third soccer field on there.
Oh, okay.
And as we do this, and we've been doing this for 10 years, we've realized, hey, let's shrink it down, let's make it a little bit more of a sustainable piece, and being able to sell that property would allow us to have some money for other parts of the project. The other thing, the reason that this is here rather than on the edge of town, one of the things that is for that development purposes. We felt that by putting this amenity in the middle of town, it would lend to a lot more developmental pieces from residential development. As you know, and we've talked about to an extent today, as residential development grows, everything else has the opportunity to grow as well.
Great. I appreciate you guys' time. Yeah.
And rest assured, Tim, you're exactly right. Advance and RC&D and that, they're high on my radar. So they've been there too, though. But you guys are too. You are high on our radar as well. So that's why we're here. So
Appreciate it. I think, to what extent, I'm not sure, but I do think that the county should be a partner in this in some capacity. So leave with that at least, because I do think there's some opportunity for us. Because making investments here certainly nests with a lot of our goals that we have too. So,
appreciate
it. To me, but we just have to figure out what the big picture, what all money's available, and then what do you need from us, because you might find that some of these other grant monies might pay for everything you're asking us for, so. And if you can't get it,
That'd be great.
that's something else too, you gotta remember, well, I don't wanna say this all the time, but we also have capability of doing forgivable type loans too, so we may be able to help you get things moving, with the timeline so we get paid back too, so that might be an opportunity as well.
Or no interest loans.
Well, yeah, right.
good.
But, we're dealing with something we haven't, as far as me being on the board, have never had that type of opportunity, with the monies that we've received.
But of course, because of the circumstances, Scott, I'm with you. I hope we never do have that kind of opportunity. It'd be nice to have the funding, but not for the reasons that they're trying to stimulate the growth. We don't want to go through 2020 again.
Right. So we need to grow the population, that's for sure, so.
Thank you very much for listening to us.
You got any other questions? Yeah, thanks for the information and the update. Okay.
Thank you, Jason.
Yep, thanks, Mike.
Oh, thank you, Mitch. I'm glad it worked. It doesn't always work the first time.
I'll make a motion, Scott,
Discussion, decision on approved funding and appropriation for support of map up fiscal year 2020.
2008-24.
I'll second that.
Does that normally come out of,
It's a game.
Yeah, it's always gaming.
is it gaming? Well, it had to be out of something before gaming came.
Well, it's probably a general fund.
What's before that?
Well, I think it's shifted back and forth. Some years it was gaming, some years it was just a general fund.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes. Motion, discussion and decision to approve ISAC supervisor dues fiscal year 21-22 in amount of $375.
Smooth.
Second.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Hearing none, motion passes.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay. Got a second?
I'll second.
Second.
Um,
Discussion?
No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, like sign. Motion passes. Thank you.
appreciate it.